this afternoon you've heard me say a little bit about Harry this morning and his work. But suffice to say that Harry came here on Thursday evening. He also brought the PIP scan, the PIP equipment, which I now have out at Ockendinny, Roslin, and will be Harry's representative for any future information, courses, workshops. But just a general, so if anyone wants information or wants to take this further, please get in touch with myself. And as I say, we also have the equipment that Harry brought yesterday that I have been aware of for, well, certainly the 10 years, but working it yesterday was something else.
And you have the latest now, Alison.
Yeah.
This is the top.
The top.
Creme.
As Dr. Mackay would say. So, certainly, as I said, working with this yesterday, and as I already said, you've seen this crystal and its colours, but also seeing other people seeing their whole meridian systems, the chakra systems in living colour, the invisible. As to most of us, it is invisible, but to see it there, it was quite phenomenal. And I could go on and on about my crystal because it was such an experience. I won't, but I do have it. I actually do have it on video.
Incredible stuff.
Which is absolutely incredible. And what I would like to say is we've also, as you are aware, I'm sure, recorded today, because quite often we miss things that are very important. So you do have a video form that you can fill out, and it's got all the information on it. But I'd like to hand over to Harry now, and I know that you're all going to enjoy this.
Thank you, Alison, for that wonderful introduction, and also Nicole, thank you for that wonderful presentation this morning, which I have learned from greatly and for admiration of. Just wanted to tell you also that I am dedicating this presentation to the memory of late Dr. Muriel Mackay, without whom I would never have met Alison. This would never have happened here. Perhaps though with Lynn in a different form, it would have carried on. But I'm just grateful to what she did for us, supported us over 20 odd years when my system was in its pioneering infancy over 20 years ago. I'm going to be introducing you today, ladies and gentlemen, to my invisible universe. Well, I have to say, it's not just my invisible universe, it's yours as well. I've got no monopoly on the universe. But I have to tell you here that the Almighty's creation is a wondrous thing. And it's inspired me to go on and on with my research and investigations into this wonderful avenue of creation. And one of the most beautiful things, apart from crystals, which the Almighty has indeed created, is this wonderful group of people I have in front of me now. And if you could only see the energy and the light, which I'm going to introduce to you today, Alison can actually show you this in the future at her centre, privately, individually, or in groups. And if you could only see the light and the colour that comes from a human being, you would be in awe. And to those reductionists, physicists and scientists who say that man is no more than the sum of his parts, you know, it's a bit like saying, I draw this analogy to my students when talking about energy and the transmission, say, in a television set. If you're watching a wonderful play, Shakespeare, say, the Scottish play, as they say in the theatres. Yes, I've said that. But the Scottish play on television, and suddenly you get a power blackout, the television's kaput, blown all the transistors and everything. And somebody comes in from orthodox science and says, okay, we're going to do an autopsy on this television set. And we're going to look for this so-called play, this so-called soul of the television that you saw manifest on it. But it's just a product of its parts. We've got to realise is that the Scottish play, whatever it is, was a transmission, which you are being broadcast and viewing here. When I look at you, when I hear poetry from a human being, that's a broadcasted signal. It uses the vehicle here, of course it does. But we are shall we say, function outside of time and space. And this is where I was ahead of Professor Penrose when I said in my book that the brain is a quantum physical analytical device and transmutation device, which can transmute this. And the fact that we have this wonderful understanding that we can have about ourselves, the universe and the environment, sets us apart from other forms of creation. And this is what I truly mean, truly understand by the meaning of God made man in his own image. Because the fact that we have this wonderful, wonderful insight of our Creator's wonderful creation. And this is what I'm going to share with you, my inspiration over the years, over 25 years now of research. It's interesting, last night I was with a young lady in a restaurant hosted by Alison there, and the young lady, I think she said, "Oh, I was expecting somebody like Methuselah." She was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised as well. I thought I was much younger than I was. The reason being, I am a product of my own therapy. I also fanatical about safety and care, and the first experimentee on my apparatus was 25 years ago at energy levels much, much higher than I use now. These were actually used on me as the first experiments. And yes.
You say in your book that you blew up the science lab?
Yes, I did. Yes, indeed. In my first experiments with curling photography, I formed a science club. And from this I brought interesting things in for extracurricular activities. And one of them was the wonderful experiment, if you can remember, at school, where you actually, someone says, well, how would you, if you had a fire, the science teacher says, how would you put it out? And most of the hands go up in the class and say, you put water on it, sir. Yes, that's right. Ah, but look, I'm going to show you something now where this doesn't work. And you get out the sodium metal, pure sodium metal, which is under oil, very water sensitive, and it reacts and burns with water. Okay. And I remember being distracted by somebody, one of their fifth form, accosting another fifth form girl at the back of the classroom, reprimanding this boy, suddenly my arm jerked, and half the sodium just went into the water trough. Now I had my safety screens there and everything, and without hesitation I said to the lower fifth, listen to me very carefully, you lot. Don't argue with me under the table now. Don't ask why, but get all of you shelter under the tables. Which they did. And I was peeking, of course, like most of them were as well. And this fireball just came off the trough, took the trough up with it, hit the ceiling, and showered my end of the teacher's end of the classroom with glass, and made a great big hole in the ceiling, which almost burned up to the next level. When I filled in the accident report, Mr. Oldfield's name went down in legend, not just in that school, but the whole education authority of Area 1 of what used to be then ILIA. And there was a fight to get in my science clubs after school. I can't think why, but they did see and learn an awful lot about the early experiments we did with energy and Curlian photography. Then later I got approached by a young doctor from one of the local hospitals, because local newspapers had done articles on the curling I was doing with the children. It was getting quite exciting. And he said, well look, you've done experiments there of viewing people's fingertips and hands and whole foods, which I was very interested in. Thank you to the caterer today, by the way. Had my full approval. And I was seeing energy coming from things like fresh food, organic soil, this kind of thing, fascinating stuff. And he said, well, you've had some of that published. He said, what about, have you looked at cancer cells versus normal cells, things like that? I said, oh, how could a science teacher have the opportunity, working in a secondary model school, to get hold of such specimens? He said, leave it to me. And I was invited to the local hospital, which happened to be Charing Cross there, and many hundreds of man-hours later, you'll see the product of some of that research, the difference in energy of these things. We talked about cancer earlier, brought the subject up and your questioning. And, of course, my dear friend Alison, none of us here, I think, none of us have not had we didn't know someone, or even ourselves, that have not had experience of that subject in some way or another. And basically, what is cancer? Well, when I compare it to life force, you'll see this. It's the life force of a person where these cells have gone out of control. And they've forgotten the ability to stop dividing. One of the things that keeps us normal looking is the fact that we do stop dividing. When cells die off, we have more cells to replace them. I personally would like to have less cells around the waist. That's my problem. But apart from that, having a mother who cooks very well, which is a terrible side effect for a scientist, the fact is that cancer cells have this extra oomph about them where they forget to stop dividing. And also the field isn't organised, it's chaotic. And it's one of its signatures, no matter what the cancer is, you've got this chaotic field of life that has gone out of control. Now the thing is, if you want to control a life force, it's very difficult to control a life force of something like a rebellion going on in someone's body without affecting the other peripheral life forces of maintenance in that subject. And with orthodox treatments of chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and surgery, which actually then sort of just vacates the cells out of the body, they're always dangerous. The danger of surgery is that a lot of these cells, tumours, are encapsulated. And it's like the body has covered them in a prison. And as I asked one surgeon, why is it that you're always following up after your surgery with chemotherapy, etc. I asked this at the surgeon hospital. He said, Harry, my boy, have you ever tried to remove a dandelion head in a forceps gale without losing any of the seeds? I said, no, I haven't, sir. He said, that's what I've got to try and do when I remove a down tumour from somebody. Basically, you've got this sort of forceps gale called the circulatory system. And when you're taking out a tumour, cells can come off microscopically into the bloodstream, fly around the lymph system, and if it's one of those cells that can seed somewhere else and produce another tumour, the chemotherapy then saturates the whole body with this controlling chemical, which in theory should catch the seeds. If you get secondary growths, small ones, the radiotherapy could burn the seedlings. But that's after now the 50 years of cancer treatment and orthodox medicine hasn't changed very much. Would you agree, Nicole? That's very similar. Obviously, the drugs have changed. The surgical techniques are fantastic. Microsurgery, the mechanics of it is wonderful. I'm in awe of it sometimes. But it's not the solution. It is not the complete solution. And what I'd like to do now, if we could have all the lights off for this, I'm going to present my slides. Could I ask somebody to operate the projector for me? Lynn, thank you very much indeed. I'll get the first slide up for you. The advanced one is Ladies and gentlemen, we have here an artist's impression of what this hypothetical energy field may look like around the body. Well, I have to make this public statement that as far as we're concerned, it's no longer hypothetical, ladies and gentlemen. It is actually a scientific fact. And we're going to look at some of the methods that can show up this energy field. Now, the energy field, life force, whatever you like to call it, aura, of which the acupuncture points, meridians, chakras and everything make up, is part of all of us. It's a common factor in humanity. No matter where you go in the world, east, west, north, south, when I've looked at people's energy fields, they've always been very, very, very similar. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you. Right, and speaking of wonderful energy fields, this swirling light around my little sitting subject here, her name was Barbie, by the way. She was my cat, and she lived for 17 years, and she was very dear and precious to me, God bless her. And we used to call her my golden girl. And she did have this wonderful golden energy that swirled around. And she would sit like that in a chair, upright, and view all the patients that came in, and even voice her opinion if she didn't like them. And she was always right. It was always the patients that gave me trouble and gave me a hard time, the ones that Barbie didn't like. Anyway, there you are. That's her energy field. Let's have a look at an example of my energy field now, the owner. Not quite as spectacular as hers, but there we have. I hope there's no members of the constabulary amongst us. That's all right then. I shall go ahead with this fingerprint and explain to you here. This is a curling photography method of taking an electronic micrograph of an object, putting an electrical reference around it, and then a film underneath a moisture plate, which then captures the light from the object once it's energized on this special camera. This whole process is called electrophotography, or properly named after its inventor, Kirlian photography, which originally came from Russia. Thank you, Lynn. Now, it produced some wonderful things and insights, and the thing that inspired me most of all about Kirlian photography technique was something called the phantom leaf effect. This is where, for those of you that have ever frequented Canada, you know this as a Canadian maple leaf. But it's not a whole leaf at all. If you look very carefully, from here to there, there is no physical leaf. What you're seeing there is an energy remnant, or if you like, a ghost, a phantom, of that missing part. You know, for example, amputees have phantom limb pains, etc., etc. Well, we've been able to photograph, for example, severed fingers and toes recently after the accident of an amputee. And here, this only lasts a few seconds, but we're able to do this phenomena with leaves as well. Now, if you imagine here, so the energy, I'm taking it a stage further, is not just coming from the molecules, just the vibration of the molecules, which are, by the way, frozen light particles, or pinched up space, as Einstein once described an atom. Pinched up space. It's a good description. The pinching is the actual electrical magnetic field that produces this illusion of solidity. But we've also got a projection of this field from somewhere as well. The transmission factor is what I want you also to get thinking about. Thank you, Lynn. Now here we have another beautiful example of a living energy field. And do we have a lot of gardeners here, I hope? Yes? Good, good, good. One of the scourge of gardeners is what you're looking at now, the cabbage white caterpillar. And it did terrible things to my organic cabbage. And so I thought, in the name of science, one could be sacrificed. And that's its life force. It's so vibrant after eating my organic cabbage, which you'll see the pictures of that in a moment, that it just filled the plate with light. Not as good as your crystal, incidentally, Alison. It's not going to eclipse that. But after I injected with one of the very, very well-known poisons called potassium cyanide, not to be tried on the children at home, I hasten to that. This was the result. After a few seconds of the injection taking action. Lynn, thank you. That was the result. Like a light being turned off. And you can actually see now the segments of the caterpillar, and all these little bubbles of light is sort of after-death effect. We have actually seen this in people, even in mortuary conditions, when we've gone in there by invitation to photograph with our special apparatus, now called PIP, which I will be introducing to you later. Thank you, Lynn. Right. And speaking of energy and the actual physical form, this was an experiment, an ethical one, actually, that was done in America. And they used rats for this experiment, but there was no cruelty involved except in their diet. Because one group of 100 rats were fed on a whole food diet, the other group of 100 rats were fed on a junk food diet, okay, of the same thing. In this case, it was organic eggs versus powdered, chemicalized, preserved eggs. And after 6 weeks, their body weight and their form were photographed. That's the result, typical out of the group of 100. Now, these rats are bred so closely linked genetically that they could even transfer tissue from tissue without rejection to different individual rats. So their metabolisms also are almost identical. And that was typical examples out of one group of 100, one group of 100. Now, that means that we do get a lot of our life force from our food that we eat, or some that's captivated, especially in the organically grown and the fresh variety. And this is what I want to go on to now. Thank you, Lynn. And when someone is sick, and they usually their diet doesn't come into it until they're ill, and then they need good nutrition to recover. Okay, and here we have one of the examples of typical first meals of the day for most of us. On the right there, that wonderful glowing gold-white speckled energy field is from organic muesli. Okay, I show you it's organic. I got it from London's Neil Yard. Now, what you've got there really is a blank picture, because basically that red cast is due to a red safe light I was using in the photography lab, so I wouldn't get all these cereals speckled everywhere. And that blank frame is from a very famous breakfast cereal where you're supposed to get the sunshine, the Helios effect from the food every morning. Well, we looked and looked hundreds of times. We photographed different cereal packets from the Big K variety, yes, you guessed it, looking and looking for the sunshine. We just couldn't find it. We just used to get blank pictures like that. And it's interesting, you know how it says added vitamins and added minerals, as if you're getting something extra. Well, after the process for these things, these cornflakes, they are so derived of any nutrition, you have to have the minerals and vitamins added back, which the process leaches out. And there's another story with those rat examples. Some of them escaped from their cages and actually gnawed and ate some of the cornflake cardboard boxes. And those that ate the cardboard actually did better than those that they actually put on weight. Very interesting story also. I don't want to harp too much on this picture, but yes, I will. I was asked many years ago, the Department of External Studies in Oxford, to give a presentation on nutrition, food and curry and energy, etc. And everything was going really well. I had the Oxford Dons there in the audience with some students, over maybe nearly 200. And everything was going very well until I got to this picture. And I mentioned the K word, and then there was silence. And there were shouts of, "Stand down, sir, shame, shame, and get off," and things like that. I thought, what have I done, And suddenly, a very worried director of the department got up at the back of the auditorium and said, "I think you should know, Mr. Oldfield, that the very auditorium that you're standing in now, this new auditorium, was donated to us by the K Research Foundation." And he said, "I've never been invited back again." It's most disconcerting. Okay, next shot, please. Thank you. These were some of my organic cabbages. Absolutely lovely. Not sky at night or anything, but absolutely brilliant patterns of light and energy. Organically grown, of course. However, even you can take beautiful organically grown food, and if you do something to it, which is over the top, for example, as I did here, thank you, Lynn. Next shot is put it in a pressure cooker for half an hour. Yes, you guessed it. Remember that cabbage in school dinners that you used to have as a child? Well, that was the process. No matter how good the actual original product, if you have it at a high temperature, and steam has more latent energy than even boiling water. So it's pressure cooked of this nature. deep oven cooking, deep frying pan, etc., you're going to denature this energy and it's going to drop in frequency. And then it's going to have less benefit when it enters your body. Can we have the next shot, please? Oh, sorry. Those of you that believe in the wonderful curative and maintenance properties of garlic, congratulations. We have discovered in these organic garlic cloves that they contain a lot of energy. There's the garlic clove here at the bottom. And all this is the secondary energy that's just spinning off it in every direction. That's several centimetres away from the original spot of where the garlic is. Thank you, Lynn. You probably saw me consuming those lovely oranges at the back of the room earlier this afternoon during lunchtime. And the reason is because I know about their energy field, and when you get those wonderful, lovely firm satsumas like that, this is the kind of energy they put out. And it's sort of setting me up for this afternoon, so we're very grateful to the oranges and the wonderful organic food I got at lunchtime. I don't have shares in the company, by the way. I really am sort of just singing its praises for merit's sake. And if I could just have the next shot, please, then. Okay. Now we've gone on to the other subject that is an emotional one for most of us, is what about the energy of cancer? That's life force. You know, logically, should we be all eating cancer? No, the answer is no. Because cancer is the life force at a different frequency in very unorganized form that is almost explosive in nature. Here we have 1 gram of control substance called adrenal carcinoma, and over here we have the 1 gram from the actual adrenal cortex of the actual centre of the tumour itself. This is a very aggressive cancer, and it just exploded all over the photographic plate here, not literally, just the energy. We have the next shot, please, then. We also just didn't look at the whole tumours. We looked at parts of tumours, cells growing in culture, etc. And here, these were biopsies. This was a normal biopsy from an adjacent site, same subject, same breast. And here we have 1 milligram of cells from the actual tumour site, where the tumour was detected. And the energy is so aggressive in this test tube, it's able to escape the glass walls. It's absolutely turbulent. When you're looking at this in the dark, in a photographic dark room, you can see this turmoil of the cancer cells, where the normal cells are just quiescent and buzzing away with background light. Thank you. We also did, from operation sites, what we call TS sections of the tumours themselves, where we just cut them in half, really. But basically, they're the same weight and the same topology as far as we could get it, myself and Dr. Ryan, who must give credit to the making this possible. That's Dr. Glenn Ryan. And we're able to cut these tumours in half, and here you see benign carcinoma with the colour around it. This is, these blackness is necrotic cells that are dying off in the centre of the tumour. And here, though, we have a lot of activity all the way through this section of terminal carcinoma, malignant carcinoma. Thank you, Nick. These were a study done, again, on rats by my friend Dr. Thelma Moss in the United States in the early 1970s. And she particularly looked at just the rats' tails, and she took coding photography of rats' tails. I'm sorry that's upside down, but anyway, here we have the typical picture of a healthy rat's tail and the energy around it. And here, where it doesn't matter where the cancer was, if it was actively growing in the rat, it would give this explosive, chaotic energy all over and from the rat's tail. And that's just any tumour growing anywhere in its body. The tail can act as a detector. And so we decided, actually then, would it work in people? Well, people don't have tails, but they do have fingertips. And Lynn, can we have the next shot, please?
Can I just move this, because some people can't see?
Oh, of course, sorry.
That's
Right. Brilliant. Sorry about that. My big head in the way. I do apologise. And thank you. And we did the same thing, a study, just one example of hundreds of studies we did with people in the hospital situation, where if normal people gave this energy out from their fingertips and these normal packets of energy, but here these flares, no matter where the tumour was, if it was actively growing, this explosive energy took place in the terminations we know now of the meridians that happen in all the fingertips. And all this is chaotic energy similar to the rat's tail that had the cancer in the body. We could do it with people as well, show it with people. Thank you, Lynn. Here we have, oh yes, do you remember those round test tubes earlier with the cancer cells versus the normal cells, yeah? When we presented this to a certain committee at the hospital, myself and Dr. Wright, one of the criticisms from the biophysics department was medical biophysics. Well, the reason you're getting these patterns is because you're using round tubes. I didn't know tubes could be any other shape. Anyway, I didn't argue with the learned scientist. He said, Ryan, Oldfield, if you change the shape of your tubes, you will not see any difference between cancer cells and normal cells in those tubes. They'll be exactly the same. Because all you're getting is electrostatic differences, dissimilar in the roundness of the tubes and the different thicknesses of the tubes. He went on and on about 5 minutes telling us how he'd got it all wrong. And under his auspices, we got these specially made square tubes, pardon the expression, made quartz, if you like, quartz because it let through ultraviolet light. And he said that the colour was the colour photography was a distraction. Could we show the same thing in black and white, and preferably X-ray film because that was nice and cheap that the hospital to supply us with. So we followed all their designations, and we were still able to, this in there are actively growing cancer cells in culture versus normal cells growing in culture. And these were typical out of the hundreds of individual shots that we took from different cultures. And the cancer cells are completely different in their energy, growing inside the body and outside the body. As long as they're cancer cells, they're different, and you can differentiate between them. And also, you can put frequencies, as you will be seeing in my video presentations after this, you can put frequencies of certain nature from electromagnetic fields and crystals and other forms, homeopathic vibrations, water vibrations, light vibrations to people, to control and quiet and boost the body's own immune system, to control these rebellious cells, and also to put a calming collective field over a life force of someone to calm down these rebellious energetic fields as well. And that's the way to go for controlling this disease. Can we have the next shot, please? Now, the astonished look on this Tai Chi master here is because for the first time in his life, he is seeing his own energy field. And I have now gone ahead 12 years after the Curlian research into PIP, which stands for polycontrast interference photography, of where, without needing to put an electrical force through anybody or an object, we can naturally see the energy emanating from it in almost any circumstance. And this is what we're using here, the PIP system. And that's this astonished look as he's looking at his own face and all the lines of energy travelling and everything. And also, he was even more astonished when he saw this picture. Can we have the next shot, please, Sam? Here we have his torso. There is showing what we now interpret as a throat chakra. We have meridian lines. We have acupuncture points. We have chakras clearly seen here that were originally depicted in ancient literature thousands of years ago in ancient China and ancient India. Books of medicine that were written then. And here, with our modern technology, we see all these lines, meridians, about half a dozen on either side, which the classic books tell us they are. The chakra systems are there side by side. It's interesting that both the Indian philosophers of medicine and the Chinese philosopher of medicine viewed facts about the body, but the Chinese didn't mention the chakras and the Indians didn't mention the meridians, but they are existing there and they cohabit the body and they work together in an integral field. Thank you, Lynn. However, that integrity of the field can sometimes change and distort and go wrong. And that's where disease manifests, when ease goes out of balance and produces disease. And here, you saw the wonderful chest energy of that young Tai Chi master. And here, we have, unfortunately, the chest energy of a middle-aged gentleman here, that's encircling the lower half of the pericardium, of this block chakra, called the heart chakra here. And he's suffering with a diagnosed condition of medicine called angina pectoris, congestion of the heart blood vessels. And the meridian lines here are becoming very thick, very congested. And this is something that the PIPSHIS system shows us every day in the clinical situation. Not just diseases like this, but also things of a minor nature, where people's balance is going off, and we can see where the energy is leaking or blocked, and we can make suggestions of how to manage that blockage, how to manage that leakage, using natural techniques. Thank you, Nick. Here, for example, we have a young lady that had an infection of the salivary gland, which then tracked down negative bacterial energy, I hasten to add, an infection, into her throat centre. After about one treatment of electrocrystal therapy, this is where I use crystals which have intrinsic natural healing powers, and I pass through weak electromagnetic vibrations through the crystals as a carrier wave, which picks up the subtle wave of the crystal's healing energy, which then is absorbed by the body. This is the result in the next shot. Thank you, Nick. Oh, sorry, reverse slide, sorry. That's me and my haste before lunchtime. But that was before. Imagine that on the other side now, but it's the same side, and that is now clear. That salivary gland is clearing, and also the throat chakra is also starting to get back into balance. It will eventually move back into the centre of the throat, but unfortunately, because of stress over here, because of all this infection, it was moved and transmuted over to that wrong side. After electrocrystal therapy treatment, it was also, after a few weeks, back in the central position. Thank you. Here's some more close-ups of these wonderful things called chakras, meridian flows. The gallbladder meridian is clearly here as it goes through the gallbladder. The large intestine meridian of the ancients is there. The splenic chakra, which is actually not physically connected to the spleen, but has an energy link to the spleen. As you can see here, it travels up here and back into the near the pancreas and back into the splenic energy here. But actually, on an anatomical level, there's no physical link with it. But certain things can change, this case, a lady's energy field quite dramatically, and it's not a bad event. Well, depends on the interpretation. If you can see the next shot, this should be particularly good for you. It will bring back memories of babies, because if you look very carefully here, we have a lady who was about 7 months pregnant, and here you can clearly see the energy field of her baby's head, which is face away from you, okay? An arm here, hand energy, and what could be another arm energy or a leg energy down here. The baby's field, and including its chakra here, the crown chakra, is completely separated from the mother's field. So its energy is of a different vibration, and you can actually see it there. Now this is done with no ultrasound, no x-rays, no invasive techniques. It's only monitoring natural radiative energy from the photon interference effect that we are monitoring as photons travel in the energy field and out of the energy field. We monitor the interference factors, and this gives us contrast and differentiation of what usually is invisible energy and becomes visible. And we have, just to show you again, that's the head of the baby, the crown of the baby's head, the hand or the arm or leg down here. The rest of the baby is quite safe on the mummy's waist level there, or going back into the hips. Thank you. Give me the next shot, please. Again, though, energy's in the wrong place doing the wrong thing. That's good energy in the right place doing the right thing, forming a baby, the next generation. But energies that form in other tissues that are looking a little bit strange. This, in case, is early stages of a breast tumour, which we were able to detect, and even mammography only picked up several weeks after the lady insisted she have a mammogram. And then it was only something like 5 or 6 millimetres across, impossible to have been detected with palpitation or any kind of physical examination. And we were able, at this level, to deal with it very easily with electrocrystal therapy and, shall we say, the patient's own immune system and fighting system. Because whatever any natural medicine system does, including healing, is we fortify the body's own energy field and the energy of its immune system to battle and kill something like this. We don't have the energy to kill anything. Any therapy has the energy to kill cells is a therapy you should be very, very skeptical about, because it's too powerful. Because as well as killing bad cells, any therapy that can kill good cells as well is not a good therapy. And certainly no system I've come across in natural medicine has got energy enough to kill good cells. But we are able to fortify the body's natural energies to kill the baddies for itself. And this is how I get my results with cancer in various people who come to me for help. And we've been doing this now for over 22 years. Can we have the next slide, please? And other people that do a great job of balancing this kind of abnormal energy is people who do Langhorn, Reiki, healing, therapeutic touch, to name just a few. And here we have a lady who's wonderful at this therapeutic touch. Here we have a problem in this gentleman's neck. And here, immediately afterwards, is the next shot, the next frame of what happened. The young man's neck now is clear of this red congested energy, but she has absorbed it into her heart chakra, there, in her chest. Young man's neck was free, it had been in a whiplash, and he'd been stiff and been in the collar. He was fine, but I asked the healer afterwards, I said, do you realise you've absorbed that negative energy into your chest area? She said, yes, but I don't recommend it for anybody with non-experience, little experience. She said, because I'm able to transmute that back to the cosmos, the universe. She didn't tell me how she does it, but back, and it doesn't harm me at all. Otherwise, you can get people who do a lot of work with therapeutic touch, healing, etc., who do absorb empathically things from their patient, and that's not good for the therapist. We were talking earlier about protection for the therapist and how this can come about. And one has to be very careful with negative empathic resonance. Can we have the next shot, please? Not all of my pictures have been a pleasure to take. This is of a young crack cocaine addict. We have been able to help many people over the years with chemical addictions, but I have to tell you now, my biggest challenge at the moment is crack cocaine, because it is so addictive, it is so mind-changing, and dare I say, even soul-changing. Here we have a 15-year-old girl. These demonic eyes, I don't think are accidental. That's something I'll tell you about in a moment. The brow chakra is wide open, so they become very sensitive to everything. And the crown energy here is split in two, and the energy is escaping. So energy can flow out, energy can flow in, but with no barriers, no filters. And they can empathically pick up terrible impressions. And this young lady had threatened to kill her own parents, for example. In the next shot, thank you, another place that gets affected is the base of the spine in these victims, the Kundalini life force that resides, as Tantric Yoga teaches us from India, in the base of our spines. And this energy is red in colour, and it circles the spine like a vortex. And in this case, it comes to the surface in drug addicts very, very clearly here. And here, this doesn't always occur, we have things that are attached to this negative energy vortex and are actually sucking energy out of it and follow this energy around. And this is something, how I feel when you've got a 15-year-old that can talk to you almost in a male voice and tell me things which terrible things of what they will she wanted to do, or whatever the influences upon her wanted to achieve. It was a frightening thing, it really was. But at least she allowed me, to my research, to photograph, and many other volunteers too, to photograph the mechanism of the distortion in their lives that is causing them to behave like this in our society. Because it isn't the addict's fault. They are almost an automaton taken over by another form of force. And it's not just chemical, I have to tell you. I have my suspicions, but I haven't drawn my conclusions yet. And could I have the next shot, please, on a more pleasant note? We have here wonderful rainbow energies around my good friend Lama Rinpoche. And Lama Rinpoche there is perhaps one of the most balanced energy fields I've ever come across, but he's a very modest man, and we saw much more spectacular, vivid colours than that, his chamber and me, and we were all struck looking at the camera that I forgot to press the grab button. And so this is a post-grab from a very much minor effect, but it's still beautiful. And when I asked His Eminence afterwards, I said, "Excuse me, Lama Rinpoche, but what did we actually see there? Could you explain it to us?" And he said, "Harry, you should know, all is nonsense." Okay, I think that may be my last shot. Can we oh, no, it's not. I've got a couple more to show you, which brings us on to another discovery of mine. As well as knowing that this energy is around forms that we can see with our physical eyes, like people, crystals, and macro-sized objects, I reasoned that this energy was also there residing on a microscopic level. And therefore, using what I'd learned from Kerning photography and PIP, I have recently managed to get to European registration patent status, a new microscope which I am donating to science, whereby we can actually show up the energy fields around and within cells and even smaller objects in full colour. And the resolution of the light microscope is also greatly increased. That means you can see more with it. Normally only what would show up with an electron microscope. The beauty of all this also is that you can always look at living things. They don't have to be killed or stained, because they stain themselves with their living energy. And here we have a bacterium called Escherichia coli, and here, attached to it and attaching themselves to the actual cell wall of the bacterium are live viruses called phages, phage particles, and they attach themselves to the wall of bacteria, inject their DNA or RNA into the cell, which then takes over production and makes more virus particles. That's how a virus works. And only electron microscopes have ever been able to see these virus particles. We are now, with our microscope, able to see it with a light microscope that we have converted. You'll be seeing a video on that discovery as well. Can we have the next shot, please, Lynn? And here, just a little bit more magnification. It is getting a bit grainy, I will admit, but we are at about 30,000 diameters of magnification. And here we can see the actual viral particle clearly attaching itself to the cell wall. This is the bacterium, and it's actually injecting material, and there are virus particles forming inside the bacterium itself. We've got all that detail. And the bacterium and the viruses are still alive. Not in a vacuum, not coated with metallic paints like gold metal and platinum, which the electron microscope needs. So you've got a very artificial environment looking at a specimen in an electron microscope, which can cost up to £250,000. And here we can convert, my system can convert any microscope in the world to see this way. That's the exciting bit. Thank you. Thank you. We have the lights now. Thank you so much. Okay. Before we go on to the next stage, which is I'm going to show you some videos, I'm going to, during the course of the afternoon, I've already got a couple of volunteers that volunteered themselves during lunchtime for this, but I'm going to call upon later in the afternoon other volunteers as well. The only condition is that we haven't met before today, because when you see the diagnostic procedure I'm going to measure and look at these volunteers' energy fields, and I'm going to say, with their permission, something about what I see. Some people have accused me of having some, especially in the States, of somehow having some sort of prior knowledge. I remember doing this in San Francisco in front of about 500 people. It's about 10 years ago. And during the middle of my demonstration, what I thought was a security guard jumped up onto the rostrum and said, "Hold it there, Dr. Oldfield. We're going to search you." I thought it was some kind of security test. And of course, I dropped everything like the good British subject I am, ambassador abroad, etc. And put out your arms. And I did this, and this is in front of 500 people. And he frisked me down like this, looked inside, and he even stuck his fingers in my ears. I thought, this must be just a San Francisco custom. I'll have to ask him about this later. He didn't stick them anywhere else, I'm pleased to say. And afterwards, he turned round to these group in the audience. They were called Quackbusters, this little group in America. You've probably heard of them. And a puzzled look on his face announced, "I can't understand it, guys. He's clean." Well, I did have a shower that morning. I could have told them. What they had thought was I somehow had got a wiring system and someone was transmitting personal information about these people I was scanning. And I was picking up this on some kind of wire and able to relate. So I want you to know that Neil over there and myself are volunteering to the ladies for any kind of physical examination during the meantime. Only kidding, Neil, only kidding. But right now, I think I have Audrey and my young lady there. What's your name? Annie. And my gentleman here, Mario, to volunteer. But Audrey, could I ask your good self, please? And Alison, if I could have the apparatus. I'm just going to put off this projector because I really did feel under the spotlight here. Okay. And what we're going to do, Audrey, could I just get you to sit here? We're going to imagine you're in my... Lovely. Thank you, Alison. We're going to imagine that you're in my clinic for the first time. All these people here are going to be disappearing, metaphorically speaking. Okay, good, she says. Good, right. I'm going to have my apparatus between us, and I'm going to go through a procedure just to scan the energy field, okay, as I would if you were coming to me, and I didn't have my PIP system available, which now takes 4 colour pictures of the energy field for everyone to see. Thank you. I had tested it before lunchtime. It's working perfectly. And basically what we have here is my electrocrystal therapy portable generator device, which terminates here in these tube of lovely crystals, which Alison has had at her disposal now for many years, 10 years plus. And we have here a special detector, sound level meter detector, unmodified. As I put this signal through you, your energy resonates. We talked about resonance earlier, a question from a young man over that side of the room before lunchtime. And we're basically getting your cells and your subtle energy to resonate. As long as I get the tuning right, I'll get a signal which emits body sound from the body. By measuring this sound directly, I'm able to ascertain what's happening to the underlying energy. So I can see if things are high pressure waves, low pressure waves, wavering pressure waves. And because of my experience over now 23 years of this invention, before the crystals, I'm able to sort of make an interpretation of something. Okay, I don't know what, because Audrey, will you confirm we didn't meet before today? That's lovely. Okay, now all I need you to do, my dear, in a moment, is stand up and hold on to these electrodes. But before that, I've got to get them in a special oscillating procedure. And this will not take long, I promise. And can I just get you to order it? Now we must wash this down here. It's there until I need the appliances. And can I just get you to hold that gently? Okay, I'm now going to look at what is relative to you a normal adjacent energy field. And I have to ask you, has that arm ever been broken or disturbed in any kind of traumatic way? If so, I will put the other arm.
Although I think that I find weakness.
Okay, may I suggest then that we swap that for now, and that's just, well, no, you're left-handed, like myself. I was going to say only left-handed people are in their right minds, but I'll leave that one because it's not worth saying. Scrap that one, Neil. Scrap that one. Okay. Let's have a good look at what the energy field is doing, Audrey. No, that's not that one. So I'm going to tune it in on this level. Now, once I've got the tuning signal, that's your natural resonance. From that natural resonance now, from that side, as quick as that, I can make A-B comparisons and look what's happening to the needle and what it's doing. Okay, I'm going to look at the chakras first, then I'm going to go to major organs, and then I'm going to look at other things too. And then I'm going to give you a report afterwards, okay, without any needing to have any leads from you during the time I'm scanning. And as Alison always knows, Dr. Mackay always used to say, whatever you do, don't scan like Harry. You've got to take your time, lads and lasses. Take your time, lassie. Right, you don't go supersonic speed like me, but there we go. I have done 22 years, so I know all the shortcuts and what to do and what not to do. And as long as I get the information, I don't care about my student critics. I was doing this long before then, wasn't I, Abby?
Absolutely.
Yes. Oops. That's what wasn't supposed to happen to you, my dear. It's a good thing it happened to me. I'm already getting some interesting information. See, that's why I'm getting excited. I know you've got to tell me. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. There's a bit of history in your back and things which I want to know about. Your neck. Absolutely. And I also want to know about a medical procedure there that happened in the tummy. Can I just get you to move that arm out the way, my darling? Ooh, right. I've seen worse. Surgery. Not worse surgery. Indeed. Indeed. Okay, a few things here. Tell me, Audrey. Oh my. I have to tell you, in the past, there's a dentist round here that did some work. Is he still alive? Because I don't want to go to him. A lot of metal in implantation on that side. Some of it was traumatic, right, Audrey? Yeah. Well, I've already started to ask questions. I'll stop that, though. Get you sit down, Audrey. Remember, this lot has disappeared and you're in my home clinic as far as you're concerned. Now, just put this out of the way temporarily. Everything's switched off. I'll ask you a few questions. Right, I'm going to use me as the demo as well. Coming down to the back, okay. There's some history here in the lower back, all right?
I don't know if there's a history, but I'm having problems.
At the moment, okay. Into the hips, yes, I know. And that's causing an ongoing disturbance. But I do feel here, can you think of any kind of injury, sporting, when a car, anything like that, that could have physically, mechanically jolted that part of the spine in the past?
I'm trying to speak
Before.
of a very long time ago, maybe 30 more years ago, I was moving a settee.
Hang on, Audrey.
Yes,
I'll
sorry.
come this over to you. There you go, Mark. Excuse me. This is something I don't have in the clinic, but I'll get one if necessary.
I was moving a settee in the house. I forget why.
This is the kind of thing I'm after. Yes.
I think that there was damage then,
Yes.
but it never.
It never manifested then. Okay. But you just carried on as
That's
normal.
right,
You didn't
yes.
rest up. You didn't see a
No.
chiropractor or an osteopath.
No.
Right. Okay. Then now, without warning, maybe in the last year. Yeah.
Just last a month ago.
Really?
Yes.
Gosh, it looks longer established.
Yes.
Okay, that's why I'm thinking of that past history. You see.
Yes.
This sort of energy field is starting to leak badly in about the, I've got to be scientific and technical now for the chiropractors and osteopaths like that, about the L4, L5 region of the lower lumbar vertebra. And I feel here that there is some pinching of some peripheral nerve roots.
Yes.
And you're getting some secondary muscle spasm going across here. This way you're getting some,
Yes.
pardon me, in the lower regions and
Yes,
behind,
yes.
going downwards in pain
Yes,
spasm.
yes.
I want to move on. All this is energy field imbalance that can be dealt with by chiropractic energy field techniques. Dr. Nicola over there will it's easy peasy sort of stuff, but we must press on. Because there was, quite a lot of dentistry done over there, and I feel also it's causing an imbalance in the jaw line and jaw flow at the moment. It's not quite perfect.
No,
Am I right, Audrey?
possibly, yes.
Indeed. Would you know that there is a lot of fillings over that side of the mouth and gaps even like
I think when I was about, in my teens, I had a lot of, the policy was to take your teeth out.
Oh.
And so I
As
had
I said,
a lot
one
of
dentist
extractions.
actually, I hope it's no
But
longer with
I've
us.
had some very big fillings at
Indeed.
the back mostly.
But there was one particular area here, men could have been a wisdom, where they really
I
had to
two
dig.
wisdom teeth out,
Yeah.
well, probably 4, I can't just
Oh,
recall,
right.
but yes.
But I think the dentists in the past had great difficulty over that side.
Yes.
And it's not the balance between left and right is out.
Yes.
So that needs to be looked at by a qualified dental practitioner or someone who specialises in naturopathic dentistry.
Yes.
The other region I'm coming
Yes,
to,
I know.
what did they do there?
I haven't had surgery.
Okay,
No.
okay. What symptoms have you had there in the lower abdomen?
Just severe constipation, I think, most of my life.
Got severe.
Constipation.
Right.
most of
Okay.
my life,
Okay.
yes.
Would you have known anything about something called colitis?
I do know about it, but
Okay,
yes, no, it's
okay.
never
Been mentioned to you.
Yes.
Okay, but the signals there are quite disturbed enough to be at that nature, and that needs really looking at very
Yes,
carefully
yes.
because it's around the ileocecal valve
Yes,
zone.
yes.
It's where the large intestine and the small intestine join together, and it should be a one-way system. In your case, it's not. It's actually open, and there is some backwash and backlog coming in back through there, and this has been part of the problem because of the imbalance in the intestine. There's so much bioactivity that I thought it was settling down from some kind of plastic operation. I'll be honest with you.
No, it's not.
Okay. And there'd been never a colonoscopy or anything like that done
No,
on you, but
no.
so good. I'm not wishing this
No,
on you at all,
no.
but I have to know what was causing that
Yes.
disturbance. As you know, I've got the location.
Yes.
And the other couple of things I want to ask you about is your left eye. Okay. How long has it been since you had an eye test?
Oh, a couple of years. maybe.
You're overdue because the left eye is now under strain, and the right eye is doing a lot of compensation. Okay. You'll find this looking at small print.
Yes.
Okay. You'll
Yes,
find
I'm not seeing
you're not so seeing so well, and you find that the right eye resolves it better than the left.
Yes.
And this needs to be looked at. Well, for you to look at it, and for it to be look a lot better than it is doing. All right. So that's what I was able to pick up in that short time period.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll be going on to the next volunteer subject soon, but I just want to put this into perspective for you. To get this kind of information, orthodox medicine, Nicole, right, without asking any questions, how long would it take with no cooperation from the patient, would you guess?
150 years.
Many days or weeks of investigative, like X-rays, ultrasound, looking at the spine, looking at barium enemas, looking at how the colon functions and everything. And we were able, with my skill, over 22 years, I hasten to add, and skills that I have passed on to many people, and Dr. Mackay passed on to many people over her years of helping others here in Edinburgh, to be able to do this kind of diagnosis. Now, we don't even need the meter. We can look at pictures and be able to do this and share those pictures with the individuals who have come to us for help. So, Audrey, thank you so much.
Thank you
And I
very
want you to know here that there's nothing I've seen, the back and everything I know is the most critical causing you pain at the moment, that can't be dealt with natural medicine.
Yes.
All right?
Yes,
So
thank
please invest. I know you're already probably investigating, but please use us. Alison's there for any advice, and all her expertise are available. I'm sure Dr. Nichols' expertise is available, and many people here have got their brochures and things. So make use of them.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless you change your mind. What's your first name? Annie. Now, Annie, just sit down for a second. I'm going to get the apparatus ready, just in the same way. And Annie, will you confirm that you've never met me before today? You can. She's confirmed it. Now, I have to start the tuning in process again because obviously Audrey's tuning level will be completely different to Annie's tuning level because they're different people and they have different resonance factors going on in their body. Okay? So that's what I have to do first. Annie, if you just stand up for me. Right enough. And can you just hang on to that and relax? I've got to ask you, is there any arm that you prefer me to use that, say, has never been injured? That's fine. I can use any arm. That's lovely. Can you see that needle there? Okay. I'm going to balance it so it comes in the middle. Can you see that? So it's like a swinging seesaw. So I'll wait until it stops swinging, and it more or less comes, as you can see in the middle. Now I'm going to whiz around everywhere, and I'm going to see where that needle, seesaws back and forth, or stays in one position, stays on a particular level, wavers and fluctuates, okay? And that's the simple seesaw diagnosis procedure. Okay, Annie, come forward a little bit, because I'll just spin around here then. Okay, so I'm going to go for the chakras first. So they give me valuable information, the chakras, and all the levels. Do you have something here producing its own energy field, Annie? Something special? A goldstone. Ah, crystalline. See that? That was causing an energy surge on my equipment. So what we do, Annie, just put that a little bit behind you. Don't need to take it off. Just want to check your thymus. Right, okay, that tells me something. I'll tell you a few things now. That's all right, Annie. Sit yourself down, please. I want to talk to you, Annie, about energy. Because there's no doubt, from what I've seen there, that your energies have been fluctuating. Okay? There's times when you've got a lot to get up and go and, and then sometimes you are wiped out. Okay? And you've wondered about that, haven't you? And have they tested you for it and have ruled out low blood sugar and low anemia and all that kind of, all the usual physical reasons?
I've never been to the doctor.
Okay. I feel also that there is a tendency there, this is the opposite of diabetes, but for you to have low blood sugar. But I can't make a medical diagnosis like that. I would have to now publicly say, you should have this checked out by your doctor or sort of medically, shall we say, orthodox person. So if there's anything you're worried about, this doesn't take the place of the medical diagnosis, you understand? Actually, off the record, sometimes it goes far beyond it, but that's my story, you see. You don't have to worry about it. But I've told you what I need to do to execute my duty, you know what I mean? Now I'm going to tell you what to do about it as well. Basically, your solar plexus energy is, I would say, up to maybe a year or so ago, there could have been some sort of traumatic event, okay, a disturbance. And I'd say the symptoms appeared about maybe a year ago.
It's
From where the
just my sort of energy levels
dropping off, indeed. I would say it could be something like getting a degree, or a doctorate, or moving, a change in environment or relationship. So I don't need to know the details, but something of that nature. It's important for you to recollect something. And this then was like a domino effect as far as the energy was concerned to cause this, and then they caused this physical disturbance. Okay, and also, there is a tendency here to a few food sensitivities. There's certain things you can eat, some things you can't. Okay, and basically the problem here is you want to go towards a more alkaline diet than anything acidic, and that really will push up your energy a lot. Okay, so choose alkaline foods. For example, like a lot of the foods we had this afternoon. For example, mostly alkaline vegetables and the soups and all this kind of thing. Very alkaline as opposed to acidic. Things that are neutral are okay. Things that are alkaline are okay. Things that are too acidic and will not do your metabolism any good. All right? And the other thing is, I want to ask you, is when you were a child, did you ever fall and damage the coccyx? The tailbone?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Because you know, what's something else I've picked up, okay, is that you get cold feet, okay, right? You know about your cold feet, don't you? If you don't, then my diagnostic system's in trouble because, you know, it's so easy to do that. And I was just thinking, well, you know, young girl, you know, what's she doing with cold feet? The circulation should be absolutely 100%. You want to really, it's not inherited, you know, nothing like that. And then I saw this energy in the base of the spine and the coccyx, which is, shall we say, it's a small blockage there. And that usually can happen if there's been a shock to the spine, like a percussion. We've had somebody falling down the stairs or coming down hard on their bottom, you know, or something of this nature. Normally a coccyx, it's my chiropractic friends, I've got to do this right. Coccyx is normally shaped like that. In your case, Annie, I think the coccyx is more shaped like that and acuter because of this percussion that's happened maybe when you were a child. And this has also then caused also reflections in the pelvic girdle. Okay, so I'd be thinking about hormonal things and balance and things of that nature also to look at. But the main thing was the energy factor here. Also stress build up in your neck and shoulders, which you do physically feel as pain. But it's a secondary effect from stress. There's nothing actually mechanically wrong with your neck or shoulders. There might be some muscle misalignment now, but there's nothing that is terribly detrimental. You know, it's like a kind of another cause. All right. Okay. Oh, I do know about is that a recent filling over there in the mouth? And
no,
has,
I've got a lot.
yeah.
So, and like the other lady as well.
Has that one been giving you trouble?
Actually, I've just been to the dentist up to go back. He said,
You're in trouble there, aren't you, on that side of the mouth? Yeah. So you're going back to the dentist?
Yes.
Good girl. So that people don't think I've got preferential for the ladies here. I've got my gentleman friend who would like to come up, sir. Mario, thank you. You're welcome. Now, Mario, will you also testify? We didn't meet until today.
No, we have not met.
Absolutely. Terrific. Not that we hadn't met until today, you understand. I wish I had met you before today. It's just such a nice guy, but, you know, from the point of view of scientific fact. Excellent. Okie dokie. Mario, if you'd stand up, please. And left or right hand, do you have any preference? That's. Oh, I don't want that hand then, because I don't want to pick up any negative resonance from the broken wrist. I've got to have it near enough, almost relative to your perfect field. So that's the side. Right, okay. And I'll show you something interesting on my scale here. Because you've given me a clue. Don't say anything else about what's happened here, but relax that arm, and I'm going to balance it, just as I did for Annie, in the middle of the scale here. Can you see that needle? Now, I'll go down to this wrist. I'll just do it a little bit more for why I'm balancing. You see, almost it's. I'm going to get it right in the middle. You see how well balanced and stable that is? Okay. Look what happened now. This is the wrist you broke?
Yeah.
Look at the reading. It's gone well above the base mark, hasn't it? By about 3. And you've got a tingle there as you're sort of focusing on the nice sample of the field. Don't you worry. No, no, no. Don't you worry. Okay, Mario, come a little bit forward. Absolutely. I'll just check through here. Okay, the chakras first, because they're very important clues to me. Okay. In America, I once did 150 in one day, I think was my record. So this is a piece of cake in Edinburgh. I'll come back here later. Yes, then they started to put the AMA representatives and the local sheriff representatives in the audience on alert every time I lectured anywhere in America that if I was to mention I was a therapist, I would be arrested immediately for practicing medicine without a license. So suddenly, Nicole, I am an energy restructurer every time I go south of the border. You know, in Canada, I'm a therapist, but south of the border, I'm an energy restructurer. I just thought I'd let you know that very early, so you feel complete confidence here. Excellent. One doctor said in America, "How dare you be more accurate than someone of my qualifications?" And I wish I had a record player. It sounded so silly. You've done football or rugby in your day. Okay, what's happened to this left leg? And I want to ask you. Well, the left leg's doing a lot of compensation. Both legs are affected. Okay, but I want to ask you about, about this left leg here, this knee, the other knee possibly as well. And sit yourself down, Marion. There is a change going on in your gait, your walk, not your garden gait, your walking gait. And if you were to look at a pair of your regular walking shoes, you'll find that one heel is wearing down faster than another. Are these regular walking shoes? Yes. Could we look at them? Yes. No, you can take them off, it's all right. Probably my death, but that's me. I'm only kidding, Mary, I'm only kidding. Yeah, no, I definitely want them off. But I was only kidding about it being my death. Should have kept quiet, you didn't hear it. He wouldn't have been insulted. Excellent. If you look very carefully here, you can see there's extra wear going on this foot compared to that. Okay, so you're favouring this left leg. Okay, as I thought. Can you see that? Okay. Now we've got to find out the cause of this because we do have an energy disturbance over the left sacroiliac joint. Okay, at the back. The other thing I want to ask you is about your neck. Okay, there is sort of build up of stress tension. That could have been even an old injury there. I'm not sure. Okay.
I don't know an old injury.
Okay.
No recollection of my neck. A lot of stress. Yes.
Oh, a lot of stress and tension.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that is getting you in the neck. The other thing I want to ask you about is food allergies. Okay, because you know I think there might be some history there of things that are disturbing. Yes, please. Yes.
Orange peel.
Orange peel?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, so the photograph of my orange is there and people's...
I can eat oranges, it's just the peel.
Okay. Oh, so you can leave the peel off?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of a response do you get?
I can't watch it.
Okay. It's interesting because I did a lot of peeling of oranges there and you were in my vicinity. And one thing about the orange peel, it gives off zest, which you inhale. And it's interesting that your thymus, which normally happens with allergic responses, is activated this afternoon. So thank you for volunteering.
Well, I had an orange as well.
Oh, that's okay, but none of the peel. None of the peel. Okay, so that's interesting. All right. Does it only happen with oranges or any citrus peel fruits like limes? Okay, lemons. All right. Okay. I know. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. But but there again, it's interesting here because there's psychology, energy, emotional energy, also with allergies. You see. But I think also, you may not have any evidence of this, but when you were a child, a boy, there was problems with the lungs, okay? And that was an allergic response. Not quite asthma or anything, but there was an incident there that, your parents still with you, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay, you could ask them.
That's my lungs. That's funny, yeah. I was blown a balloon up one time when I was very small.
Go on.
Blew back on me.
Right.
It actually knocked me out.
It knocked you out. You actually got air forced back into your lungs. Well, it didn't happen with an infection or anything then, so that's interesting. So it was a trauma to your lungs when you were little. Okay. I can usually tell where, but obviously I can't give you blow-by-blow account in detail of how it happened. I can tell roughly the crime scene, but I can't tell you who the culprit is always. But to get the patient focused on these energy problems to where they usually have the solution is where it's the way to go, all right? It's interesting, but if you ever get one of those flow meters, okay, and to, you know, when you're feeling okay, is to see what the flow is like from the lungs. I would say here, if it's slightly below what should be normal, we can put energy back into the chakra involved in the lungs to bring it up to what should be full force. Okay. The other thing I want to ask you about is the intestine. Okay. Any sensitivity that you've had there on the descending colon? Any problems?
Not the colon.
Anything anywhere adjacent to that area? Okay, but you know it's coming on. I am a little bit. I am a little because you know we're not really alone in my practice. Not really, we're only pretending. Okay, so there has been an energy disturbance.
Oh yes.
You know.
I'll tell you what it is.
Please.
Right. I had a section recently.
Thank goodness for that.
Very well, Rob.
As long as you know. Did you register my embarrassment and as I was turning red?
You're sending me away.
Yes, I do. Not too tight, I hope.
Yes.
Thank you, Mario, for putting me out of my misery there, because it's a long way from the intestine too. It's the closest I could get without embarrassment. I could have said bladder infection.
What gave it away is when you look down.
You're not a policeman or detective by any chance. No.
Yes, it went wrong.
Did it reverse?
No, it didn't reverse.
They can do. They can. The tubes can join up again. Oh yes.
No, I got an infection.
Right.
Epididymitis. Epididymitis?
Yes. Yeah.
I had great trouble getting rid of it.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's quite gone yet.
Well, look, thank you for being so forthright about that. You know, but the thing is, it's an energy block. It could have been in your elbow. Okay. And the energy blocks are just. It's getting worse, isn't it? This block, wherever it is, can be got rid of by natural energy. And I'd recommend.
Hope you're regretting this now.
When you said you were coming up in the afternoon, Alison, she's gone. Alison gave me a very, shall we say, concerned look when you volunteered. Listen, Mario, there's nothing, detrimental there in the sense like but there's definitely blocked any congested energy. So that needs to move, that needs to get going, okay? On the other things that, well, I know where the stress is coming from now, in the neck and the shoulders and everything, and the allergic response, which hasn't come to an allergic response, was because there was a lot of oranges being unzipped in your area this afternoon. A whole tray of them there. I know I had about half a dozen myself, so there you are. Mario, is there anything else that you may want to say or miss? It might be of interest.
Give me a hint.
Nothing that Bless my three volunteers very much indeed, because it's very difficult to come out. I've got the easy bit, but thank you for that. What we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, because it's been a long time you sitting down and everything, and sometimes some of you need fresh air and a bit of natural light, listen to it, is to have, we're going to just please, be strict about this, just 5 minutes, Alison, yeah? And we're going to have, rather than that more bigger break in the afternoon, we're going to have smaller breaks so that you can get up, get ready to volunteer and all that kind of thing for ready for experiments this afternoon. And I myself are going to go a walk around the wall, I should say, for 5 minutes, and I shall be back in 5 minutes on the dot to show you my videos. Thank you, everyone. I didn't show them the PIP system because I didn't know where the program was coming from. And I didn't want any pearls trampled underfoot, if you remember where that saying comes from. That's from Psalms. And So I decided that I would play it straight with them, but wait to see how things developed. Whether or not they would, talk about it in a disparaging way or in a positive way. And everything was pretty neutral until I scanned the presenter himself. And he was amazed, but what I said on there was nothing what I told him in detail afterwards, you understand. And then he made an announcement to the crew members, and he didn't know I was listening. He said, "Hey guys, I want you to know, we're going to play this straight as a die, no mick taking," he said, because this guy is genuine. And, so what you'll see there, they didn't edit any of my patients' words. My patients were not edited about their comments, about what they thought of the therapy, what they had, what they thought they were cured of, etc. And it's a kind of thing, Nicole earlier talked about miracles that he's experienced with his system, and there'll be, I'm sure, many more in the future. And to use the biblical term, what does a miracle mean? Miracle means something to be wondered at, is the direct translation. Something to be wondered at. And I am very proud to tell you that I see miracles every day of my working life. And when I see someone who has been in pain, later on I see them and they're out of pain. To me, that is a wonderful miracle. That really is. Without the use of chemical involvement, without the use of anything invasive. And without further ado, if we could have the lights, please. Thank you. Well, I don't want to strand anybody in the dark, Lynn, Julie. So, give you a warning. Okay, here we go. Just the...
Could this piece of quartz crystal be the key to a new healing method that could help literally thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people? That's what we're going to discover on today's episode of the Y-Files. A cupboard full of beautiful crystals. For literally thousands of years, man has used crystal for healing and other spiritual purposes. Crystals like this beautiful piece of amethyst. But now, ancient wisdom meets modern technology, because now there's a new way to use crystals to heal. A way that's perhaps never been used before. And that's what we're going to find out about. Ex-science teacher Harry Oldfield seems to be defying Western medicine with his belief that when crystals are vibrated with electricity, they can heal the body's energy field. But it's Harry's patients themselves who are seeing the results. Some think he is performing minor miracles.
I've seen so many cases come in and you didn't think they had a chance, and Harry's got them right and they come running in and out and they're all perfect.
Buck was literally carried into Harry Oldfield's small surgery in Middlesex. He was paralysed down one side and blind, and doctors had virtually given up on him.
Before I only spoke or laughed, and when someone made me laugh, half my mouth stayed still, and the other side moved. It was a dreadful feeling. The doctors didn't want to know. When I told them I'd been visiting Harry Oldfield and I could see again in both eyes, "Who's that?" They said, "Never heard of it." Didn't want to know.
Hilda Liptrop is one lady who certainly believes that electrocrystal therapy helped her enormously with the medical problems she was having.
Well, I had breast cancer. I'd known of Harry because he treated a friend of mine that had cancer, and now she's fine. And I had a PIP scan, and so Harry also did his own, look at the extent to which he thought it was. And then immediately began twice a week treatment with the crystals. There's no evidence of it now, because I took her for checkups at the hospital.
So Harry, we've heard from some of your patients how this treatment has really helped them in a remarkable way. Now you're going to do a little demonstration on me exactly what you do.
Indeed.
And explain a bit how it works. So assuming I was a patient coming to you for the first time, what would happen?
Well, first of all, I would scan what's called your energy field.
Right.
Basically, I take measurements from different parts of the body and ascertain your different energy levels, and sometimes we're able to pick up interesting features which I then sort of relate back to the patient. This is a standard sound level meter. Okay. When I get you hooked up to the crystals and get the crystals oscillating, your molecules also start to vibrate, and this all picks up some sound and also some the RF, what we call radio frequency field, directly from the body that's been conducted through you. And I'm going to tune in this arm, okay, and I'm going to have a look at what the meter is saying to me.
Okay.
And then by looking at that, I'm going to put it to other places of the body, what I know is a normal reference now, and look at what the numbers are showing me there.
Okay.
Now, if it's okay, I'll start and work up, if that's okay, Alan.
Yeah. So what exactly is this telling you?
Well, it's giving me some interesting numerical information about the energy values here happening in the feet.
Right.
And it's an interesting fact I'm picking up already, that I'm getting fluctuations in the left side at the moment. The right leg is compensating for something happening in the left. I would say it's some sort of spinal injury that's had a knock-on effect to the leg.
I've never actually had any operations or anything like that, but I have had an extremely bad back on that side and on this leg, which has been playing me up for years, and more recently it's been quite bad. So that is absolutely spot on.
Thank you.
So, if Harry's system is this easy, why hasn't medical science in the West been more open to his healing crystals?
Individual doctors, not doctors as a whole in the NHS or whatever, I'm not talking on group, but as individuals, if they take the time to look at this, and many have, they've found it a very interesting and complementary system to what they do already, and sometimes it supersedes some of the techniques used in orthodox medicine.
Some doctors just are blind to it, and others are very open-minded, and when they see the results, they want to know about it.
Now, some say that methods like electrocrystal therapy only work because people believe they work. But of course, that argument goes out the window when it comes to treating animals.
It all started 4 or 5 years ago when he got run over by a car. And basically, he had his head bashed in here and his back was run over, and he lost the use of his sort of limbs and everything else at the back end. The vet wanted to put him down. Fortunately, he had an Australian nurse there, and she said, let's try and find something to help him. So the vet went to see Harry, and Harry said to give it a try. And from then onwards, it's been great.
He was a limp, round dog when I went to see him. He was paralysed. And we got twitches in the end of his tail. And I thought, that's interesting after the first treatment. We can build upon that. Perfectly healthy cat. He won't be on his back legs. He can't run fast like an ordinary dog, but he gets around.
Showing people communicating with the idea. Is to show them that it's there, get more people trying it, and hopefully people will vote with their feet.
Now, before I came here to do this interview with Harry today, I'd never met him before, he certainly had never met me, and he knew nothing about me. Yet, within the space of a minute, he was able with his equipment to detect that I had a previous problem with my leg and my back. We know that people have used crystals for a very long time, even modern-day therapists use them. Of course, it's always dangerous to assume that this is some miracle cure that will solve any problem. I'm sure Harry will be the first to say that isn't the case. However, it could be a very useful way of helping people with all sorts of conditions in the future. And I have a pretty strong suspicion that we're going to hear an awful lot more about this particular method of alternative or complementary medicine.
Shortly following that, within wheels, so to speak, I suppose one presenter talks to another presenter, and that word gets passed on whether something is interesting or not. And I was approached later by the Discovery Channel. You may know about it, those of you that have cable TV or satellite, something I frequent with great interest sometimes when I do have time to watch any television. And they were doing a special section on it was going to be called the alternatives, on alternatives treatments in various health problem areas. And for some reason, they had heard I had had an awful lot, it's routine for me really, of improvements in back conditions, some of which were on the verge of needing operations and things like this. There came to be several treatments with electrocrystal therapy. The energy balance was put back in the spine, and the actual physical spine can do its own movements back into place. Well, this was quite amazing to them. And although they've only put me in this back section, as soon as they saw what our visual apparatus could do, which is what now in the hands of Alison there, now in Edinburgh, they actually gave me more time on the air. So this is the next little bit of snippet I want to show you next. And after that, I'm going to be doing some more demonstrations of the diagnosis, remote field diagnosis, ESM, and asking for more volunteers. So, okay, so there'll be some more fun after the video. Well, you keep having it, all right?
Back pain doesn't always happen instantly. Sometimes it develops over the years. And some of the alternative therapies for back pain don't involve any prodding or pushing. It wasn't until 50 years after her accident that Elsie Bryant started having serious problems.
When I was 17, I got knocked down by a fire engine, and I woke up the next day in the hospital to find that they had to amputate my leg. I was then fitted with an artificial leg. My life has been normal, climb ladders, do everything really. I've never really had any problems with my back before, and I feel it's to do with the gait where I'm walking. At the beginning of my pain, I was getting sciatica across my back, across my buttock and down the front of my leg, and it was extremely painful. Painkillers would take it away only for 4 hours at a time, and somebody suggested to me that I should come and see Harry Oldfield for crystal treatment.
Face me for a minute.
Many alternative therapies talk about the flow of energy. Few show how it works. Harry Oldfield is a physicist and biologist who's invented a scanning system that reveals human energy fields.
The PIP camera is based on light interference. This is where light is bouncing off a subject, coming into the camera, is being analysed, and we're looking at the different intensities of photons as they change, as they move in and out of the energy field.
The energy's doing down the legs and the feet. And
I'm looking for pattern recognition.
can I get you to turn sideways on?
I can draw an analogy, if you don't mind, to a weather map. In the early days when we saw these real-time weather maps, we didn't know a cloud from a sunny spot. But now if you just look at the isobars and things, you know, oh dear, low pressure's on the way, that's British springtime. In the same way, I've learned to recognise these pressure systems, if you like, and energy patterns in the human body coming on our apparatus. And I'm able sometimes to predict a past storm or a present storm going on, or sunny conditions. In this young lady patient, we can see here the side profile of her spine, and you can see a bulge in these energy lines, and this is where the energy is being pushed out from that part of the back that's getting weak. It's causing a problem then in the part of the spine going downwards, where she confirmed she had a past problem at slip disc. Now that's a trapped energy. If you think of it like a bubble on a car tyre, sooner or later that could give way and a leak occur. Energy that leaks away can be seen as a spurt of energy coming outside of the body and out away from the body. On Elsie's picture I saw an energy leak occurring at a certain part of her spine that she was complaining of a lot of pain. And this told me that we needed to put energy in at a certain frequency to compensate for this.
Harry found he could help people using the ancient power of crystals in what's called electrocrystal therapy.
Crystals and gemstones have been used for thousands of years for natural healing purposes. Electromagnetic fields have been used in modern medicine to heal bones and cause the joining of non-union fractures and to stimulate healing. And what we've done with electrocrystal therapy is combine the two to work with the harmonies and the natural energies of the body in promoting healing.
Would you like to have a cup of tea?
You're sitting there for about an hour, and you get the feeling of warmth on your back, and that basically is the treatment. My back definitely feels stronger. It's as though I'm not frightened to move so much.
We don't always monitor straight after a treatment, but with a little gap we can actually see very, very wonderful subtle changes of the energy field mending itself. This energy leak now has completely vanished. She also has a much brighter field at the back of her.
I have taken any tablets, painkillers or anything, and I feel marvellous.
I see it as energy restructuring. Even physical illness or mental disorders, injury, disease states, any one of those can change the body's energy fields. And by working on these fields, we can affect a healing state.
In the course of his research, Harry discovered centres of energy.
The amazing thing was we were seeing these patterns. We seemed to tie in, we didn't know at the time, because I wasn't aware of them, with the chakras. And these patterns have been known in Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years. We also saw acupuncture points and meridian flows, which has been known also in Chinese medicine for thousands of years, but we saw them all working together in the human energy field, and that was a remarkable revelation. Here we are, Westerners, coming with our apparatus and able to show it to sceptical young Indians who heard about them, and we actually show where the chakras are, the changes before and after yoga, before and after herbal medicines of Ayurvedic practitioners. It was an incredible thing.
Being able to wake without pain is a first and very important step to recovery, but it's only one stage on the road to an active life. Exercise is crucial for rehabilitation and...
Okay, thank you. Right. Now, I'm going to pause for a few questions, and then we're going to go on for another physical demonstration. We have another little break, and then another little demo, a physical volunteer session, and the last video. That is the I'm within my time frame. Alison, yes? Good. Okay, eject. Lovely. Fantastic. Okay, who would like to kick off with a few questions at this point? Plug the apparatus.
What changes does yoga?
Well, it depends. There are many yoga stances and many yoga disciplines. Sorry, who are... oh, right, sir. And there's things called like pranayama, which is sort of yogic breathing, and even breathing can affect the outside energy field. And there are certain hatha yoga, physical yoga postures can affect individual chakras. And I was lucky that I was being shown this by experts in the field who were teachers in their own right for many, many years. And some of them, remember an elderly yogic practitioner in his 80s who I thought had the energy fields of an 18-year-old. He acted like an 18-year-old as well. It's like talking to an elementary schoolboy. That's not the story. Could actually run down road in 40 degrees of Indian heat, something where I was melting in. That was most impressive. Never caught him either. But it was most. I've also seen Tai Chi exercises and Qigong in China. I'm only recently back from China, actually, I'm proud to say, where I've been able to train over half a dozen barefoot doctors who are now using electrocrystal therapy in the local communities in Meichong and in the outskirts of Beijing. And I have to say that the Luchong Peace Hospital is now has got PIP and electrocrystal therapy on its rostrum of natural medicine. In China, you see, people get the choice. They're offered natural medicine or traditional medicine or orthodox medicine by the Chinese people's government. And you can choose what you want. You can change halfway. You can have both going on at the same time. It's your choice. You know, as it should be for every human being, their choice. One thing that's always needed is accident and emergency. You know, if someone, God forbid, is hurt in a car crash or something, they don't come and see someone like me. But they do sometimes need me after, say, a whiplash injury or a non-union fracture that's not healing properly, and orthodox medicine has done all it can to try and stimulate the healing they can't. And that's where our energy techniques of healing come to own with this kind of a problem and, of course, chronic illness, and also the causative factors behind these disease states. gentleman over here was talking about stress, asking a question about stress, sir, were you? And the importance of stress and illness. And I remember, because I got in the habit, when I talked about stress, I was talking of the big S, as far as I'm concerned. It's a terrible thing. And I remember, again, very elderly couple. He was about 80, she was a bit younger, probably 75. And what do you think is wrong with my husband? And I said, well, I think it's the big S here. I meant stress. And she looked at him, there was a distant smile on his face, and she looked at me, and he said, well, I don't know where he's getting it from, but it's not at home. I'm nearly always in trouble now. Anyway, I did explain to her, of course, it was stress I was talking about.
It really is truly wonderful to see with the live demonstrations that was witnessed this afternoon.
It's part of my clinical routine every day of my clinical life, so it's, I mean, I make it look so routine, but I realise how amazing it is for people who've seen it the first time.
Yeah, and you know, you could get lost, I could see where you could get lost in the wonder of that.
Indeed, indeed. The wonder, though, I must tell you, it's not for me, or even my apparatus, it's the wonder of the energy field around you lot. You know, here, the privilege you give me of looking into your energy, and all those I thank for volunteering that. You know, sometimes the great pain and the amusing stories that one can come across. When one looks at the human energy field, I feel privileged, you know, I really do, always feel privileged.
I wonder, though, if the scientist in you isn't called out by maybe wondering whether or not there are commonalities between presentations of illness.
Oh, yes.
One of the practical demonstrations we saw this afternoon was a woman who perhaps may be suffering from low blood sugar, a fluctuating blood sugar level.
Indeed, I think that was, possibly, I could have mentioned that to young Annie, from my recollection, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Although I wasn't making, you understand, a medical diagnosis of hypoglycemia, I was just saying it's something that it could be a causative factor here. And I think she's a busy young lady who sometimes perhaps doesn't always have the full meals at the right time, and will work through, say, a lunch hour on more than one occasion. Annie, would you say that is correct? Yes, she says yes.
Great. I just wonder whether you would expect that condition to be expressed in the same way, using that method across among people with similar difficulties, or whether it would manifest, whether it would be something in the
we do
kindness or
recognise
something.
trends and definitely patterns.
Yeah.
And this is how, for example, I work very differently to Nichols' partner, who is an intuitive diagnostician. Yes, would that be the correct title? Well, in America it would be. That's what he would use to keep safe. I am using, a lot of people have accused me of this, but it's not correct, because I can't do anything without my instrumentation. It might be a media for such things that help me realise things and see things, but, you know, certainly I can't just sort of sit back and look at somebody and say X, Y, Z and be absolutely right about that. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't know how to go about it. See? So I look for patterns and trends in my signal. And from this, I am answering your question in the usual way about that. But I want to be really thorough, you know. And basically I'm able then to train people to recognise those patterns and trends. For example, the great Mackay, God bless her, took to this kind of, mind you, she had been a dowser. She had been president of the Medical Dowser Society for many years, had she not? Before she actually came on my course some 20 years back, this is from Dr. Muriel Mackay. And, well, I mean, she took to ESN like a duck takes the water, you know. I mean, you know, in some cases she was better than me. In many cases she was better than me with my own apparatus, you know. And that didn't come as a surprise because she had 40 years of experience before in naturopathy as well as being a general practitioner. Remarkable person. I'm sorry, I could give a whole lecture on Dr. Muriel Mackay. Maybe I will do one day. Yeah, we'll get a lot of attendance on that, I can tell you. And a lot of people would learn an awful lot, just as I did in her presence. So it's something that can be passed on, and it is by looking at these trends and patterns in the signal that we can pass on this knowledge. And also, the one thing, have you heard the old saying, I'm sure you have it here in Scotland, that a picture talks more than 1,000 words, yeah? Okay. Well, when you see the PIP systems here now in Scotland, and we've seen on there, I have to say the television didn't do the justice. When you see the richness of the colour and the patterns of your own energy field, or another subjects, or anything you bring with you, including crystals, for Alison to look at, you'll see some fantastic things into another invisible universe. And anybody who's not impressed, well, I'm sorry, but there has to be something wrong with their eyes. I suggest they should get tested.
But you can see the chakras and
Yes.
you can see the...
Indeed. We have that commonality. It's not my own individual interpretation, you understand? We're sharing a visual experience. Okay, our, shall we say, interpretation of what it's doing may differ a little bit. You know, people vary in experience, but it's there to comment on.
You keep using the phrase stimulate the healing process. You're
Yes.
unaware of it, I think, but you keep using it.
Yes.
At very important points in your dialogue.
Yes, yes.
I think what you're in actual fact saying is that you're fitting into a system that's already in operation.
Yes, yes, that's how I see myself. I'm a link in a chain, that's how I see it. I'm not the focus of the healing, you know. I'd like to think I'm an educator and I'm a trainer in the operation of how one can get to this stage, you know, but to the patient and the therapist, how to get into this stage. But
as a scientist, part of you then fallen away.
The scientist in me is always a hard taskmaster. Yes.
Right. So, would you expect the particular presentation that we saw of low blood sugar
Yes.
this afternoon? Would you expect to see that presentation in another person who also had low
Yes,
blood
to a
sugar?
certain extent. To a certain extent, it can be. I've learned, and I also try and train my candidates in the system to learn that everybody's signal is personalised. It's like an individual fingerprint almost. This is what you remember when I switched from Audrey to Annie, and I said to Annie, I've got to now tune in to your individual resonance because I've still got music, so I had to change the frequencies of the equipment so that I could tune into Annie's instead of being on Audrey's wavelength, you see.
So there are some commonalities that
There are some commonalities and there's some very individual characteristics.
And are we in a position to know what characteristics are
Yes,
more
because we give, over the years, I've given guidelines of these patterns and numerical values. And then there's data very carefully kept on all this in our training program. And of course, it has to be essential to pass it on to third parties. Pleasure. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the question. I always get the most sensible questions in Edinburgh every time I come. California is another matter.
Are you seeing wellness patients? Are you seeing people show up who have no complaints?
I have, shall we say, scan patients who, shall we say, exaggerate. Can I put it that in a polite way?
No, are you getting people coming along who want to promote their health solely?
Oh, yeah, but for like MOT checkups, kind of in things, just to say, I've got nothing wrong, but I want you to check me. Sometimes we do.
But the inference there is that there could be something wrong. I'm talking about optimising someone's health. I mean, surely this is critical to someone's overall health.
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
why not have someone come along who has no complaints, who has no symptom, no sign, no disease, who's just wanting to further themselves?
It doesn't. I'm trying to put it when it last happened, isn't it? I think I've had one or two healers and therapists themselves who've said, look, I want to come and I want to maintain myself.
Yeah.
I want a dispassionate view of mine so that I can carry on my work and helping others. I've had a couple of cases like that. Not in quite the way you described. I mean, I would not, I'd encourage it, but it's not an occurrence that happens often. And there's
so many people who, when they come, they know there's something out of true balance and there's something wrong, which we usually go on to detect and confirm and interpret, help them interpret. And sometimes guide them even to something very mechanical that has to be done by orthodox medicine, then we guide them back to orthodox medicine. But certainly, a kind of...
But there is this notion that we only exist to fix the broken patient. That therapies are only there for that reason and not to further people. And
I also believe that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as well on that. That's true. Yeah. But I'm saying that if more people presented themselves to me with this request, they would not be turned away. I would compliment them on their far-sightedness. Ask them, do they realise what we do? And we take pictures, we've analysed their field with ESM perhaps, and may not then any suggestions. I also believe that if something's not broken, we don't fix it.
Could I ask you then, building on that one, if you're talking at the same, was the Rinpoche's field very, very good balance?
Very good to a certain extent, but His Eminence had seen me professionally. He doesn't, I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, he's spoken publicly about it. And he fell down a mountainside. And kind of thing I suppose you do. And he had a vision, this was not healing, his leg was not healing, and he had a vision of this man, was me, he says, working in London, working with tubes and crystals. And this was the only thing that in this vision he said would help. His traders, his entourage investigator, they found me, fitted the description. He then came to London, and he had a very perfect field here, but I did show his leg, and that was had been leaking energy due to this fall of some 300 or 400 meters down the mountainside. I thought His Eminence got maybe 35 feet. I'm trying to correct him. 35 meters, 400 meters. And I said, well, Your Honor, how did you survive? And he said that he remembered that as he was flying through the air, using his footing on this goat path, he remembered flying through the air and thinking of his old teacher's voice saying, whatever life throws at you, please enjoy the experience. He woke up on the ground, and all the Sherpas ran away because he became conscious, and they thought he was a ghost. And the Sherpas ran off, and he had to call them back. I'm not a ghost, I'm alive, but help me with my leg. Yes.
You obviously are doing quite a lot of training people to use your scanning.
I am. I travel all over the world. Yes.
I have no idea how many people you've trained that way. You've obviously been to China. Can you give us an idea of what percentage of people who do come and work with you, how successful they are being?
Like people I train?
Yeah.
Oh, I would say very successful. Yeah. Very successful indeed. Where they go and work in their own I'm just doing electrocrystal therapy, but they sometimes offer electrocrystal therapy with their chiropractic, osteopathic, homeopathic skills. So they're like offering there a composite of wonderful tools.
Do they combine it with their own
They do.
practice?
They do indeed. Obviously, the diagnosis is very top of the list in the sense because that can help with any system of natural medicine where you see the energy imbalance that you want to treat because it's neutral. You understand? My crystals will treat the energy imbalance, but they are wonderful. I'm not what I call a possessive purist here. There are wonderful things out there that can help people. And I've just been privileged to be able to just over my lifetime to discover one thing called electrocrystal therapy.
It's a natural consequence of what you're telling us is that it should be applied as widely as it possibly can be.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, indeed. That's my dream. But of course, it's by, how can I put it, I always say, not my will be done, the Lord's will be done in this. Because I feel it was a gift from Him.
and everything, you know, I get, including a lovely sunrise, is a gift from him, you know, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. You know, I'm the kind of guy who looks in a mirror, and thanks to the good Lord, He's given me nostrils. You know, they're wonderful. They're thought about nostrils. He's given us nostrils to breathe His wonderful air, and there's just enough oxygen to keep us alive. If there was any more oxygen on this planet, a fire, if it caught on fire, it would never go out. It's just the right balance. I remember talking to a quantum physicist who said, you know, the balance in the universe of this energy, Dr. Harry, is absolutely stupendous. You know, it's almost like there could be a supernatural being out there tinkering with the apparatus. And I said, do you know, there are people who do believe in a divine... He said, I don't want to talk about that, but I just want to mention it in passing. Well, one day, I'm hoping that one day it will sort of be there in front of him. I don't push my beliefs on people, but they usually know where I'm coming from just by my actions, you know, and they always know I'm a Christian by my love. Surely, if people miss on that, then they've missed me entirely.
Can I ask about your relationship with your patient?
Certainly. Yes.
In relation to what you've just said, vital importance. We're living in a country who actually believe that, you know, the National Health Service would take care of all of our illnesses. And so
this was the dream after the war. Yes, I know. Yeah, my father believed in it. For a Labour man. Yes.
You pass on the skills that you have to your patient so that they can continue their own healing.
That is my dream, and I have done it, may I say, in many instances. I have a lady here who's witness to that. Yes, sir. Indeed.
Could I suggest that your very being does it to all of your patients?
Again, it's making me somehow important, which I don't think I am, really. You know, I'm just an instrument. I feel I'm pretty good at talking about my subject. But if you got me talking about off my subject, like football or Motherwell or something, I wouldn't be able to. I'm completely ignorant.
The important thing, I'm absolutely certain the important thing is that you give your patients confidence to carry on with healing.
I feel it's my duty.
It's your duty.
Yes, I feel I am a creature of duty. My grandfather fought in the First World War. He was a hero there. My father in the Second. And I was brought up with a Christian duty. I'm not ashamed to tell you that.
Good, thank you.
I think we're due for our 5-minute break now, Alison. I always get the best questions in Scotland. That's why I'm coming back. And as soon as we get back, we'll go straight into the demos again.
Okay.
Bless you all. And thank you, sir. But God bless you for the last question. Just wanted to say that when you've got supporters like Alison, Lynette back there, and people like that, it makes my job a lot easier, you know, because it can be a little bit of a lonely life there. When you're showing things of an invisible nature to people and making it real, and as I've had to put up with hostility and skepticism all of my academic life, you know, it is wonderful, truly wonderful for me, hand on heart, to tell you, to be in an audience of like minds, as I am now today with you. You know, it makes it a real pleasure to work with you. I also feel the Lord's presence, and as you've seen, it at times moves me to tears. And I'm not ashamed by that, because where there's always true healing, the Lord is always there. Right, I have a young man volunteer who said it was you. I haven't got the wrong young man. Tell me about it. We will have a couple of ladies too, and maybe another gentleman to come out and volunteer as well. What's your first name?
Martin.
Martin. Thank you, Martin. Martin, this doesn't put me off. Are you of the medical profession?
Yes.
Right, okay. In that case, I'll have to be tip-top. But truly, no, I won't need even to go into medical jargon. What I'll do is explain. As you've probably seen, I'll go into sort of like where I know the energy field is getting maybe out of balance, okay? I will point that zone out to you. And although I may say, oh, you know, there could be poor circulation, there could be something X, Y, or Z. If my interpretation of that distortion is different, don't dismiss it out of hand. You know, I know that nobody else here would either. It's only, the weak link is my interpretation of what I am seeing with my instruments, okay? The weak link is always me. I'm the first to admit that. And what I've got to do is, with your help, is to try and get to that sort of, those granules of truth about what your condition is and where it's going and how we can help for the future, you know. But a fine specimen like this, I don't know what I'm going to be able to tell you, but we'll see. Everybody's always a surprise, everybody's always different. So, let's have a good look. Oh, listen, if you've got magnets on, that can make a difference. Right you are. No relation to Chippendales, I take it. That's all right. That's all right. If I could just get you to hold to our umbilical here. Now, just relax. People, I should have said that when I tune people in, and even when during the treatment, they perceive no vibration at all. There was, I think, Mario, a bit of a tingling when I mentioned mu reaction or something with his hand, but I think that was more a psychological reflex, as we say. But normally, people feel nothing at all, okay? And basically, I just want to show you on the signal here what we're trying to get hold of there. So what I'm trying to do is bring that down to the 0 mark. Can you see that? Yep. Just balance that one. Once I've roughly got that, that's very smooth indeed. I know then that's not coincidence. I can go back again. And I can see that's pretty steady. I can now use that as my general reference level as I look elsewhere and see how it deviates. I'd like you to look down because I want you to show what I'm seeing. You see that right in the, almost right in the middle there? Okay. When we go to the right knee, can you see that as I go round the inside? Yeah. Okay, going up there. Now to me, that looks like maybe an old cartilage injury. Meniscus, no, nothing like that. Okay. But it does get achy. Okay. In that case, there's always a reason for the ache because that's... Ah, okay. Could you have perhaps twisted something or someone had twisted your leg? Okay. But I'm nitpicking, really. Okay, I'm nitpicking. But that's... I wanted to see... Some people say, oh, gosh, he does... I know my students say, well, he hardly looks at the meter. How can he know he's taking any figures, you see? And I just wanted to show you that meter really does move when I see something. And that's why I'm going a bit slow. But now I'm going to speed up. Okay. And because I work so fast, and I do have a photographic memory, then you know, I can work faster than most, only because I'm used to the system. Martin, have you had alcohol in the last 24 hours? How long ago was Burns night? I think Burns night is over, isn't it? Right, okay, that's all right then. Okay, I just have to rule out that signal on the liver, you see. Okay, because it, you know, still, you know. You're not a regular drinker, I can tell them that. signals just cross-referenced in here, and especially across the head and the eyes. Martin, do sit down. Okay, I've got a few little things to ask you. Not too many, but a few. So I've also got to ask you about tension headaches and or sinuses. Okay. Are you recovering from any kind of you know, cold or anything that's irritated you? You know. Okay, that could also have added to the liver signal. Right. Okay, because toxins often do that. But and you haven't. No, I'm not wishing a sort of a cold or anything on you, but the.
I get a wee bit sinus. It doesn't generally get me.
Okay, okay, but it's something that after this you should watch out. You know, it's just a sort of weak links in the chain is what I'm getting for you. Sure. Okay, and it's like preventative rather than so that's the protection. The liver is sensitive to toxins, and I'm sorry if you had the drink to get over the virus. I apologise. I'm not trying to make you out to be the regular drinker. In fact, I did say you're not, because what happens with regular drinking, people build up tolerances, and they can disguise it until they could cause damage to those. And this was purely, I think, what I was seeing. There was toxins, maybe from the virus combined with the alcohol, and that produced a little bit extra effect than I was used to seeing from the odd drink. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was the throat, the sort of like the voice box, the larynx. Again, is it times when you've had laryngitis and actually lost your voice?
No.
Okay. Again, these signals are coming here and here and here, and you know, I'd want you to bit stacks of echinacea or something like that. Okay. And then you've had no therapy on the throat or the neck or anything like that, in a sense of tackling the virus?
No.
You've just let it run its course? That wouldn't affect anything like that. Okay, so we've come across the right leg. Okay, maybe an old injury from childhood in karate, possibly. And there seemed to be a sort of fluctuating energy as we went down the back to also into the right foot. Okay, so you know there's the balance between right and left leg is none too accurate. Okay, in the sense of balanced, I should say. I think the interpretation's accurate, but you just have to see about that, because when you're doing any sport or anything like that, if there's anything if you do any sudden movements, twist or whatever, you probably feel it there, and even mild pain or anything is a warning that something's going out of balance. The thing is, I do want you to keep in mind what signals, irritating signals I've seen in the sinuses and the throat. Okay, and you haven't been like anywhere near any ozone levels or anybody painting or anything that's caused an irritation in the environment. Okay, it's a process of elimination. You have to be like a detective sometimes. And the most when you've got a pretty, if you don't mind me saying so, quite a pretty healthy specimen like you around is, and it's the nitpicking that's the most difficult thing. Rather than actually seeing something that's right in your face, you have to pick up these little signals and try to put together a kind of cognitive story, to tell, to say what you've seen.
Eric?
Yes.
To what extent what you've seen would be influenced by the fact that you must have been wearing magnets?
Well, it could well be that with the, are these soles in there all magnetised?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
they are. They are. Well, they could be, shall we say, holding his field or reinforcing his field to where there isn't as much for me to see because of the reinforcement.
But do you have residual effect from that?
Even if you've taken them off, the beneficial effect could still be carrying on, you see. And those are they're in positions to stimulate your acupuncture reflex points in your feet, and therefore your major organs like your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, and what have you. I'm pretty good at it. The only thing I'm thinking of the liver toxins, which I think is left over from the stomach virus.
I got
Okay. Well, you know, here again, because the liver is so close to the stomach, you know, such a big organ, your stomach, the weakest chakra is the solar plexus, okay, which is this one, which governs the right side for the liver. And it's just the midriff is the first place I picked up the biggest distorted signal, but it's more emanating from the liver. The liver and digestion is interconnected too. So what about animal fats and things like that? Do you find that sensitive in your digestion? Cheeses and things like that? Dairy products? They cause heartburn. In that case, you'll find that probably you could be thinking of a gallbladder in the sense of not enough bile for the emulsification factors of fats. It could be very chemical in that respect, but there could be an energy factor. The solar plexus isn't that far down, you know, but in a question here of -1.5, when it should be right in the middle, 0, you know, that's not in the pathology area at all. It's -3s, 4s and 5s. Don't mind me saying, Audrey, your back, for example, was -3. You know, very weakened indeed, with this sort of like chronic pain entrenched inside the muscles and what have you coming out of the back. So it's very simple for me to detect. In this case, because the distortion isn't well as bad, it means that, you know, I'm obviously not able to put a fine measure on it like I can with some other things.
I get a degree of tension in the shoulders, but you're not picking up any particular.
I'm not picking up.
That superficial rather than.
Well, you've been wearing the magnets. You've taken Solpadeine. You know, painkiller. That was 3 days ago, not today. Okay. Well, that could well be maintaining a good level of maintenance for you to where the field is holding much nicer than it should be. Yeah. But certainly, I couldn't detect any weakness in the neck or the shoulders at the moment. I was checking the, you know, non-smoker and things like that. Expect from the medic, but that's not always the case. And it was just a surprise on the liver when I thought, gosh, there's been a few whiskies there, but at first, then I could see that the kidneys were fine and everything like this, no other ill effects. So that when you explained to me the stomach virus, which also produces toxins which have to be broken down in the liver, it produced a proper story. Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, when someone like me has very little to say, and you're in good order, you know, I would be relieved. But thank you. God bless you.
In all your questioning, you're looking for physical causes. If we really wanted to, and you were in a real situation, would you be looking at emotional causes?
Yes, of course I would. Yes, in the clinical sense, absolutely. Although, obviously, what I'm looking at, you know, physical anomalies are easier for me to detect. You know, we do not rule out the emotional factors that compose illness. Stress, for example.
Do they show up differently?
Sorry?
Do they show up differently?
There are certain centres of energy we particularly associate with emotional components. Okay? To a certain extent, Martin, solar plexus, for example, is an emotional component. But there wasn't enough distortion there to say that was in the, it wasn't stuck wide open in an emotional sense, and therefore, but there was definite reflections from the physical liver.
Does it have to be stuck wide open?
No, I just said that as an example. That's the worst kind of thing, which is stuck wide open, and people, you know, are literally doing this business and talking to you like that. They actually are subconsciously protecting their solar plexus, their plexus solaris, their sun chakra here. And some people who won't make, you know, with psychological changes, won't make eye contact with you, have a problem because their brow chakra is very wide open and things, and they're frightened if they make eye contact that something will fly in or something will fly out. These are their words, not mine. So definitely we listen and take into account very seriously the emotional disorders. For example, I do not distinguish between physical illness and emotional disorders at all. You know, to me, it's one and the same thing. It's energy imbalance, which we can rectify help rectify by trying to encourage the balancing factor back in place. I think right, lady volunteer maybe next. This young lady, I just caught it at the corner of my eye. I'll try and get round to as many people as possible, but Pam, isn't it? Yes, indeed. The reason I know it is because I signed her book earlier. Okay, but I don't know anything more about her, isn't that right?
That's right.
Okay, Pam. You'd like to come over? What I try and do is sort of lady, gentleman, gentleman, lady sort of thing. Pam, if you just like to, which is your stronger arm? That one, okay. And just relax, okay. Are there any magnets or crystals in the pockets? I should ask that one, actually. That's okay, then. That's all right. It's a nice, oh, I don't think so. It's very nice. Okay. Do sit down. Okay. Get that between us. I've got to ask about energy and metabolism in you, okay? Because have you had any cases of where you've been breathless? Okay, okay. And has there been any problems in the past with your thyroid? Okay. I've been picking up some fluctuations in the...
Sometimes I've got a bit of tight throat.
Oh, okay, and coughing.
Yeah.
Do these coughing fits sort of attack you often?
Just periodically, just around.
Okay, okay. The throat chakra is showing some stress and some strain from the past there. So it's something we've got to bring your attention to, okay? And if you haven't had any problems, if you like, with metabolism or anything like that, then I've got...
I did have actually about 2-3 years ago trouble with my breathing. Actually, I didn't mention it. It was actually, I think it was probably a lactose intolerance.
Right, a lactose intolerance. Was that actually diagnosed?
Not formally.
Okay, because I think that your thyroid has also reacted as well. We can actually, it's going down lower and lower. Yes, oh yes. Always remember, equipment will always let you down. That's the number one thing in public speaking. Okay, we are getting somewhere now because, you know, there's no doubt about it. There was something from here that's affected the breathing mechanisms and what have you. There's nothing, it's echoes I'm picking up now, okay. I do want, did you have a small stomach operation a few years back?
I had my appendix out,
yeah.
And I had a cesarean section.
Oh, right, indeed. That would qualify as small operation. Yes, indeed. These are very easy signals to pick up, you know. And, you know, good surgery, I hasten to add, good surgery where you haven't done. But I do feel that you've had to get small stitches from time to time. You might have a little small adhesion there or something.
I think my appendix was infected, the scar.
Right,
was
okay.
infected.
The scar became infected, okay. because there's still a little bit of niggling disturbance, turbulence in the field on that right side there. I've ruled out your ovary, okay, they're fine, and things like that. I have to ask about one of your legs though, your right leg, okay. What happened there?
No idea.
Because, yes, indeed. Looks like an old injury, but I'm not sure.
I don't know.
It's certainly not a signal that tells of arthritis. There's no sign of it elsewhere in your body. You had a little niggly thing in the past in your lower back, but that's gone. That's completely repaired. Well done. Don't know what you did there, but it's settled down perfectly. But I was disturbed. I went back and forth of your right. I knew there was something.
I don't know what's wrong with my right knee, but it's not right.
Okay. So basically, you can't expect an absolute diagnosis from the patient themselves. So basically, we know there's a disturbance there. Either that should be investigated further, or we go about with an energy medicine technique of stabilising that area. Okay, and it's interesting. It's right-sided, and that is on the area of the meridian which passes through the appendix on its way up to the gallbladder and things. By the way, the gallbladder did have a little fling some years ago, I think, but that was okay, in the sense of disturbances, digestive, okay. But I want you to sort of think back maybe 2 or 3 years, but just keep it in mind, okay. It's fine now. The other thing I wanted to ask you about was you have reading glasses, yes? Okay. Did you know that you've got to have a bit more correction in your left eye? Okay. Have it checked, because I know these days you can go straight into Boots and buy your reading glasses, blah, blah, blah. But they don't correct for, there may be one eye, this factor, that eye doctor factor slightly different, and they don't cater for that. Go to a good optician to get it tested and see if there is that little difference. You'll find the left eye isn't up to scratch for your actual prescription at the moment. Okay. You're overdue for a test. Follow it up. Now, the other thing I picked up is a kind of a fluttery factor on one of the, again, it's right side, on one of the kidneys. Okay. And have you got any pain or anything in that area? Okay. It just seems to be that right side, the appendix, the knee, and everything, all that meridian side where it travels through all those organs tends to be of a slightly different signal from left and right hand. What you've got in your case, Pam, is a polarity shift of negative energy over to the right side. Don't get worried, it happens to a lot of people. Okay, and therefore, it's often crossed over in the eyes as well, because the switch of the brain and things. So that's why your left eye is affected, not your right eye. So it doesn't work like that. But that's the main points that I've been able to pick up with you from the scan. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. A gentleman on you. So what's your first name, by the way? Bill. Bill, if you'd like to come out, Bill. Thank you for volunteering, Bill. Thank you so much. Come up, sir. Have a seat. And now I'll just get the apparatus ready for you. Out of the way so we can get a little bit of on the. So I can just get the stand up, Bill, and I can just get you to handshake this tube and just relax. If you just step one pace forward, we're in business. Bill, we're away. Bill, bless your heart. Thank you very much. Sit down, Bill, and we'll get talking. Right, so staying in place for a change. Excellent. Can you hear us at the back okay? Excellent, excellent. Right, Bill, talk about the back, and I'm just going to work to the front from there, okay? It's not necessarily the area of importance, you understand, but it's just convenient, okay? I noticed that there was a different signal between your left and right shoulders, okay? And I've got to come to that because I know it's caused you a lot of discomfort and pain. I don't think you're out of the woodwork yet.
No, Lynn and Jean are dealing with it.
Well, you couldn't be in better hands. Well done, Bill. What can I say? What? That's going to be sorted. Now, the thing is, have you in the past, Bill, had any kind of breathlessness or chest pains?
No.
Okay, okay. Have you been getting over a recent chest cold?
No.
Okay, right. We don't have any kind of metal medallion or anything out of the way that is near the chest, but near the heart, pericardium or anything like that? No. Okay. Let's come back to that, okay? And there's been nothing, let's say, from the shoulder, distortion or manipulation that could have come through to the sternum in any manipulations or exercises you've done where you could have pulled something.
Oh, no doubt about that at all. And broken collarbone too.
Oh, that would do it. That would do it. That would do it. You see what I'm looking for damage on the front of the chest, but I'm not trying to get you paranoid about your heart. Do you understand?
No.
You know, because I look, but there's been damage around it. You know, but the collarbone, you know, fragmented, like 2 collarbones, clavicles that have been fragmented.
That one would never even reset.
You haven't been an old soldier by any chance, have you?
No, but I've been in the wars.
I'm a soldier of some kind. I love it, but that's now this happening.
I stood in front of the truck.
That would do it. I mean, you're too young to have been in the Second World War, but you could have been in Korea or something, right? You know.
The Boer War.
No. Never make that suggestion. We'd never be brave enough. No. The thing is, though, that what you've now put my mind at rest, because I was wondering what all these damage signals were in the upper chest, you know, and I had to rule out the obvious, you know, that something had come from but the pericardium up here, you know, you've come from a long line of good longevity stock, I'd say.
Right.
Not bad, yeah, definitely.
But had stomach ulcers, do you know?
Well, I was going to come on to I was coming on to your solar plexus, Bill, because that's a sensitive area, and the area it governs is the stomach and the duodenum and elsewhere. And although that's not stuck open, I'd say you have had a period in your life when you've had high stress, Bill. There's no doubt about it. Very high stress, because I've seen that from the solar plexus front and back, and it's well away from the heart. Do you understand? That's all mechanical damage. You're not going to stand in front of any more trucks.
I don't think so.
You've got plans for it. Okay, good. Also, I don't know if it's left over to the truck accident, but the lower back, there have been twinges there. But I put that on the lower priority to what's been happening in the shoulders.
In the lower region, yes.
Yes, indeed. The other thing to talk to you about is, how can I put it? Just flow to the feet. You know, I think sometimes you've been sitting a long time. You do get pins and needles and things in the toes, and this is just something that you've got to. On long journeys, like in aircraft, not saying you have to. You're one of the people that has to get up there. Forget what the air hostess tell you. Sit down, sir. Do your seatbelt. You take no notice of them, and you walk around the aircraft. Don't offer to fly the plane, but walk around the aircraft. Tell them there is this condition in your legs where you are prone to blood slowing up in the legs.
I had to have an examination for that, and it was too long after the event for it to show up. But there was no doubt about it.
That something had happened. And I'm trying to sort of get you, in case nothing had happened. You may not be aware of it, but when you, especially people, you're not only doing diagnosis, but you're doing it in a public place as well. And above all, you don't want to. You're seeing some interesting and potentially sometimes serious things. And above all, you don't want to cause alarm or distress, because you're not doing yourself or your profession any good if you're doing that. You're just adding to suffering. So I can see here, Bill, that you are very well aware of what I'm trying to tell you, and you're aware of the dangers, so you're going to keep yourself out of danger.
Yes.
Excellent. That's all I need to know, you see. Therefore, I know when you go away, I go off with a clear conscience, knowing that Bill knows this, you see, and so I'm left bewildered, worried, or feeling sickly, which is that's something we never do.
What you have done is you've made me conscious of the fact that I have to look after myself.
You do.
And that was my reason for asking the question.
Indeed. I have to say, though, that I don't know how you do it, but there's no. Can I say this? That you're a fine figure of man for whatever your age is.
He used to be a boxer.
I was going to say, how did he do it? Because there's not lightweight, of course. Welterweight.
So watch yourself.
I already did. When I felt the firm handshake, Bill, I was aware from that moment on I should watch it. But just one careful what I'm saying. But you're a very fit person, and this is why I knew it wasn't the heart, because you're cardiovascular. You've got a slow pulse. You've got
a slow pulse.
You've got an athletic pulse, which I had. Especially after these events, it's always. But we can't all be this way, Bill. But just avoid the trucks in the future, and that on those long aircraft that we have to do ground shortly. Aspirin, yeah, absolutely. Keep an aspirin with you, and the mild exercise, walking around the aircraft, and asking, for room in the aisle. That's it. Get an exit seat. I do. I like this business, especially on long flights. Smile to the check-in very carefully.
I always do that.
I've flown Thai Airways, so I know what bravery is. So. Thank you, Bill. God bless you. Okay. Now we are going to be doing some more. Obviously, demos from the audience, okay? But now what I've got to do is show you some more interesting video footage, okay? So, Alison, can you just, so spectacular, they said that the patent would be impossible to file because it would be against the law of physics. They looked at the schematics and everything, and what I was trying to do with this new invention with a microscope is to do something that it was not capable of doing optically. Now, for those who know me, okay, Alison will remember that something like that would be like a red flag to a bull, and I saw it as a great challenge. And I remember, especially in the sequence where you'll see all these microscopic cells in a three-dimensional form, the way I've made them optically appear, they said definitely that what you described there is against the law of physics. And I said to the patenting agent, well, I am so glad you didn't tell me that 3 weeks ago, because I've just done it. Here it is. And that was on our last meeting. And so this meeting I presented that, and with the schematics to amend the patent. And the physics department had to accept it, So I'm very pleased here that what you're seeing here is probably breaking the laws of physics, but who cares? Laws like that that are restricted must be expanded upon. I'm not saying broken, but expanded upon. They've got to be flexible to accommodate the awkward people in science. That's me. And this is how we get progress. I think somebody said that over there. That for progress in science or something, one needs awkward people. I feel like standing up there and putting my hand up, because that's something I've always been accused of. Right. Now what you're seeing here are the living single cells of plankton cells of blue-green algae living in fresh water. That's with my effect off, and Now, as we bring my effect on, my special lenses, you'll see the energy inside them, or the light, and the auras around them as they travel through the water. You see these little Mickey Mouse ears on those cells? They don't exist in physical reality. They only exist in energy. I call them my Mickey Mouse algae. Specks are the energy fields of very tiny bacteria. You're not seeing the bacteria at all. You're seeing the energy of the bacteria. There's a colony of algae here, and they give off an enormous energy field. Where there's life, there's light. And also, here, we're seeing living bacteria in the way they act and
we are seeing now the collective behaviour of free living bacteria. Behaviour not visible with ordinary microscopes. They're acting as a coordinated group and not as individuals.
You have frontline soldiers as they go through a medium, feeding. That has never been seen before. They don't act as individuals, they act as groups. There's a connection of energy between them. Classified as the most simplest form of life, amoebas, single cells. And the energy around them.
No, this is not a Greater Mars experiment, but a single cell amoeba surrounded with algae cells. The colour changes in the background going on are due to us altering certain conditions and scanning the amoeba with our device.
Isn't that beautiful? Look at the energy. The cell dies, the energy disappears. Or it changes, I should say. Energy doesn't disappear.
Here we have two more amoebas. One, a radiolarian species, and the other we have nicknamed Nelly the elephant because of the pseudopodium tentacle that looks like a trunk.
And also, to those of you who ever know about microscopes, look at the beautiful detail within the cell. To normally get that detail, you have to kill the poor creature and stain it with various dyes and chemicals, which are usually poisonous to the operator. Here, the creature itself, from its own energy, stains itself with light. Look at the different layers of energy around this single cell here. We have different layers around our cells.
Here we have an amoeba encysted, and here we have the amoeba out of its cyst.
Those are bacteria that the amoeba have captured and is engulfing at the moment. It's a single-cell creature called a paramecium. And again, there's beautiful details of particles and energy and force field behind it.
The beautiful detail within the cell.
beautiful scene is from a drop of muddy puddle water. Next time you step in a puddle, I want you, seriously, to think of the beauty that you're stepping into. Just the mud on your feet.
Here we have a drop of muddy pond water. After seeing this, could anybody look at a drop of muddy water again and still think of it in the same way? Here we have just a single cell of bacteria.
Just a single bacterium cell magnified about 20,000 times. And inside the cell there is this band of light. And I feel that extra light is coming from the DNA sequences, nucleotides, that are permeating through the cell. That's the energy of the cell on the outside. That's the physical cell, and all that is just energy. Now, this is also an aspect of the microscope they said was impossible to ever achieve. Single cells, just a few microns thick, and I've managed even to see shadows as they swim through the water. The prospect for microcellular anatomy and analysis and surgery is phenomenal. I've already been approached by companies from America, which I have already ignored because I'm going British, which includes Scotland. That's who are going to get my instruments first.
Which is not usually seen in a 2D flat field microscope view.
Little bubbles of mercury, perhaps, is the best analogy. Yes, well done, well done. That's what I reminded me of when I first looked at them. This is where we've deliberately made the background dark. It's called dark field analysis, and let the colours and the energy of the microscopic world shine through.
For the dark field effect in our system. And here, surrounding this debris, we have thousands of bacteria which are making the wonderful scintillating glowing effects from the debris itself.
So on that piece of detritus, there's no light. The light is coming from the living thing itself, bacteria. And here, single cell amoeba, look at the light within the cell. Everywhere, you know, there is light, invisible light. Yes, it is true, I did give up my own blood for this video sequence. And I hope the medics amongst you notice the very low cholesterol particles that you see. Or don't see, I should say.
Here,
and that's the brightness of the light of my freshly drawn blood, physiological fluid on a slide. 20 minutes later, the cells start to darken their light, because they no longer have my life force to maintain them. And then, nearly over an hour later, you'll see the next shot. I've introduced a few soil bacteria to hasten their demise. I've forgiven my cell. I hope my cells have forgiven me for this, by the way. otherwise I'm in a lot of
One
trouble.
state where I've introduced soil bacteria, and unfortunately...
So you see, the only lights, my point is, in this control sequence, the only lights coming from the living bacteria.
Human cell analysis.
The dead cells don't give out any light at all. They're just empty husks of plasma, and cytoplasm, I mean.
Here we have some pond water organisms with our effect on. Here we have the same ones.
So this is what an ordinary microscope sees without my optics. Bring my optics back in. Complete difference. Look at the energy.
Here, we have the same thing in split screen mode.
Same things we're looking at, except here, the best optics you can get, and these are my optics. Next one is Zeiss, Leica, Zeiss, Olympus, all of the same kind of caliber.
What you have seen here, everybody, is a breakthrough microscopy technique which can be applied to any science that uses a microscope.
Somebody bored from the pathology or histology department of this great hospital who might have just wanted to waste a couple of hours on a Saturday morning. Because if I got such a person and if they were going to show such an interest, I was actually going to donate this microscope to this hospital. But maybe Lynn could spread the word around. Well. Almighty, thank you. He moves in the most mysterious way. Well, please, would you mention to your head of department that Harry Oldfield is very happy to convert any research prototype microscope free of charge to this system that you've seen here for any kind of frontline research. Absolutely. No strings attached. Might have a little mention in dispatches from the professor occasionally, but you know, otherwise we're here to serve. So, thank you. You know, even at my stage of life, I've got to learn to have more faith. Because if you have the right intention, God always provides the media for it to manifest through. And that is so true, so true. So I thank the young lady and her pathology department. I'm sorry, I really had no idea, you know, so I'm really grateful for your presence. Thank you, because that makes that microscope and all the effort I put into it worthwhile. But as you've seen, it's only one of my many inventions, and I've often been asked, you know, what do I think is the most important of all my inventions as far as, you know, saving lives is concerned. That came from one of my enthusiastic, charismatic students. And the answer surprised her, because I said, potentially, it's my smoke mask. And most people, unless you've read my latest book, oh, there it is, The Invisible Universe, HarperCollins, okay. Make sure they send you a copy. If not, Alison will acquire copies for you. Make sure your local library gets a copy too, you know. Spread the word. That won't cost you anything. And I remember one Christmas listening to the news broadcast and suddenly hearing this. I'm sure most of you remember the Manchester airport disaster where people didn't burn on the ground in the aircraft, they died of smoke inhalation. So I was thinking about some way of then, and I know that these poor people, I get scared enough on aircraft. I really don't know, with all my science, there's this leap of faith to know how this big jumbo jet actually stays up there. You know, I find it so difficult to believe it's at 40,000 feet or 38,000 feet with all that heavy metal around me. But it can be a nervous experience for all of us. And things like that, we should have things there that boost our confidence. And people think, oh, you know, if there's a fire, those masks will come down, and we'll put them and we'll be able to breathe. I'm sorry, one thing that doesn't come down in a fire in an aircraft are those oxygen masks, because they feed the fire. So the oxygen supply to those things is cut off. So you can't breathe. And I once asked the stewardess, what is your drill for getting people out of the aircraft? Well, we're supposed to get them all on their hands and knees so their nose is touching the floor, and that's how we get them out of the aircraft. Very undignified, at the very least, you know, I thought. So, especially after the disaster in China, those poor children on a Saturday matinee that were locked in the cinema, couldn't get out, and died of smoke inhalation, hundreds of them. I said, right, Lord, guide me. And he did. He did. Immediately, I got thought of these very simple household chemicals put together in this special microfiber mask. And I worked at it feverishly over the weekend. And the family didn't see me at all. I was just in that garden shed, you know, disappeared. And eat there, slept there, you name it. Even peed in the bushes that night, I remember. I didn't even want to go into the house to the loo. And suddenly I had it. Monday morning I had it. And it just so happens that I had a London Brigade fire officer who was one of my patients, who was singing my praises to front and centre. And I thought, this is heaven sent. I have an opportunity. I'm going to tell him about my smoke mask invention. And he looked at me, and he looked at that, and he said, look, Harry, I'm going to test it out for you. But you know that we in the brigade cannot get involved in anything commercial. And this will have to be between you and me. You realise that. But, you know, they have their smoke rooms and all this kind of thing, and able to measure leakage. He came back the next couple of days. He said, boy, he said, what the hell have you put in this mask? It's one of the best filters we've ever seen. And I said, well, a few household chemicals and a little bit of know-how. He said, this is inspired. He said, it really is inspired. But he said, I can't help you with the commercial side, but all I can tell you is, believe it works. Well, I said to him, okay, you say it works. What do you mean by that? And he said, it'll give a person in a smoke-filled building nearly 5 minutes of breathing time to find an exit. And I thought to myself, 5 minutes, that's not a lot. He said, right, he said, I told him that, and he said, in a smoke-filled room in a fire, 5 minutes is an eternity. If someone hasn't found an exit by then, there's no point in going in the fire brigade, he told me. It was that bad. So he thought it was a worthwhile project. So the first thing I thought, aircraft, cinemas and everything, hotels, and what have you. And it went to a very famous airways for assessment. And they tested out my prototype and everything. I went it through an agent. And they couldn't criticise that it worked, but they said, you know why they turned it down? That it would add too much time to the safety program in the pre-flight series that they give to their, you know, this business, that business. Just doing this business and that business would add too much time. So I want you to know that I intend to, in the future, I was very disappointed in that, and I've decided if I can't get a good ethical company to take this on, that I will be publishing it on the internet to where everybody can make their own mask and keep it as a safety mask for themselves and their children, and take it to on holiday with them, on aircraft, in hotels, and even in their own home, to protect themselves from death by smoke inhalation. And I believe that is my greatest invention. That could potentially save hundreds, if not thousands, of lives. And it's a very simple one that can be done with household chemicals.